This podcast is brought to you by the Arte Media Pantheon. Please head to artemedia.org to see all kinds of podcasts from our great friends. And if you would like to start your own podcast, they can provide you with all the tools and resources to do so there. So that's artemedia.org. A-R-E-T-E media.org. Heck yeah, nailed it. First go.
Nailed it.
As far as you know, I nail it on the first go every single time. Welcome to the Spurr the Boat podcast, everybody. I am your host. I'm Justin Spurr. I am joined by my co-host. He is incomparable. He's the incomparable Jordan. And today, very specially, because it's Star Wars and we host a Star Trek podcast together, so why not have him on for Star Wars Day? It was synergistic. It made sense, and
it makes sense.
It makes sense when you stop and think about it. Jake's here, and so today's show is gonna be kind of fun. I have, in my opinion, curated news stories that I think Jake might actually know something about. And then later, obviously, it is May the 4th. We're gonna be talking about Star Wars, and I think it'd be fun if me and Jordan would play a game of, instead of me being like, Jake, have you seen this? We'll just guess. We'll guess if you've seen it. We've curated I feel a nice broad selection of Star Wars items. Some of which I think will be obvious, some of which I think won't be so obvious. And then at the outside of each item, we will, if you haven't seen it, because there's some stuff Jordan hasn't seen, you guys can be like, I'll watch that, or I won't watch that. And if you have seen it, you can say skip it or see it. That feels fair. So, with the news, we're going to talk, just up top, we're going to talk some news. Make it so, number one. Apparently, new Deadpool movie is going to involve the X-Men. Smashing Machine. I think I sent that trailer to both of you. That looks interesting. George Lucas talked about why Yoda speaks backwards. He does. Steven Spielberg said what he, I think, feels is the best movie of all time, or maybe he's been designated by the American Film Institute. I don't know. We'll find out. And Now You See 3 Me. Now You Don't Me. The trailer for that was out. But just to start, and this is just mostly for Jordan real quick, Will Forte, I don't know how to pronounce that. He is the star of Coyote vs. Acme. He has declared that he is going to promote the crap out of that movie, and as the two guys who made that movie come to theaters, we will also promote the crap out of it.
Yeah, definitely.
It was important we started the show that way. Jake, I don't remember. Are you a Looney Tunes guy at all? I can't remember if I've asked you this.
I don't hate the Looney. I don't even dislike the Looney Tunes, but this goes back to, I probably have a small hint of resentment to the Looney Tunes, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault.
Interesting.
Go on.
And it goes back to all the way when I was in kindergarten, around 5-6 years old. Well, my school, I don't know if they do this in Canada. I don't even know if they do this in the United States anymore, but we had half-day kindergarten. So you were either there in the morning or the afternoon.
Yeah. Same in Canada, yeah.
I was in morning kindergarten, and when we left, we would go home. Ostensibly, I went to someone else's house because my mother worked, and whoever got to the TV first got to decide what was watched, and all the other kids wanted to watch Looney Tunes. See, well, I didn't hate the Looney Tunes. I just felt that, frankly, at 6 years old, I felt that the Looney Tunes were somewhat juvenile.
I mean, it's funny. Like your brain is kind of like, yeah, they're a little juvenile, but also they're not. Like, oddly,
I know this after the fact. I do know this, but what I wanted to watch, and for those of you that watch my content elsewhere, this will come as no surprise to you. I wanted to watch a show that had a long narrative arc by the name of Conan the Adventurer. Because I wanted to. Well, here's the thing: like, if you miss an episode of which is an episode of the Looney Tunes show at the time, was just a compilation of older cartoons.
Yeah.
If you missed one, you didn't miss anything. If you missed an episode of Conan, you start watching. You don't know what's going on in the story. So
that's like when I hit a certain age. It was like that with Dragon Ball. It's like if I miss one episode of Dragon Ball or Power Rangers is another one, I'm fucked. Like I need to see every single one.
Part of your Broadway world says, honestly, that checks out. But I love the Looney Tunes growing up.
I
Now
look
that being said, now I have tremendous respect for the Looney Tunes and what they did,
right.
and some of them are down. Particularly, some of the older ones are downright controversial.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Oh, by today's standards,
Oh, yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, by
Yeah.
today's standards,
I mean,
by
like,
standards of the day, not at all. But
they were willing to do suicide jokes back then that you couldn't do today. Like,
well, and I used to stand on my moral soapbox whenever, ironically, I defended Dragon Ball with this comparison. Because my when I was growing up, my mom never said I wasn't allowed to watch Dragon Ball, but she had concerns about the violence and the descending to other dimensions as they were in
yeah,
the ocean up. And I pointed out, I said, well, watch a Bugs Bunny cartoon, and Elmer Fudd's been shot multiple times, and he's no worse for wear. So I think if you're worried that children won't understand there are consequences to violence, I think Looney Tunes is a far worse example to follow.
oh, I mean,
Because at least in Dragon Ball, things happen and there are consequences. Temporary consequences in some cases, but there are consequences.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, wow, I was watching Star Wars this week. It was like there's a lot of times in what is a kid's show being like, yeah, that guy's dead. He's dead. He's not coming back. Like,
I mean, yeah, especially in the Clone Wars where like soldiers get gunned down left and right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, but they're clones. They're not real people.
They're not real people. They're just clones.
So
They can just grow a new one.
They could just grow a new one. So the one time I will ask if you have you seen the I will ask this question is have you seen the Now You See Me movies?
No, and actually, I have a semantic question in regards to seeing Now You See Me 3. If I don't see Now You See Me, will they then have seen me? Because I don't think they will have seen me if I don't see Now You See Me 3.
I mean, the third one is now called Now You Don't. So yeah, more or less, yeah, it's certainly possible.
Oh damn it! Now I have to go see it so that they will have seen me.
It's true. They're fun movies. This trailer is a little. Did I send you the trailer, Jordan? I think I did.
No, I don't remember if you did, and if you did, it's been a long week, and I don't necessarily remember it.
Yeah, it's getting to the point where they're doing the magic tricks are so unbelievable. Like they've done like reaction videos where they've had real magicians be like, "Yeah, it's movie." Like it's but they're fun. they're fun like heist movie.
Wait, so people are thinking that the magic tricks are now unbelievable?
Yeah, well, because some of them are, and some of them like they do some like legit good. If you're a fan of cardistry, like they do some legit good cardistry. Like there's a really good sequence in the second one where they're trying to sneak in like a microchip that looks like a playing card, and the cardistry they're doing is more or less real, and practiced. And Jesse Eisenberg like really took the craft seriously. Like he actually learned how to do magic tricks and whatever. So like
yeah, there was an interview I think with the first one where he did a card trick in an interview, like an actual card trick.
Same thing with
if
Dave
only
Franco.
If only he'd taken the character of Lex Luthor to heart that way.
There's a funny interview where he was like, yeah, no, that went wrong. Basically, I thought that was funny. He was like, yeah, no, we didn't do that right. But
in his defense, I think I know what he was going for, and it just didn't land.
I don't think he's. I mean, I said this previous week when I talked about American Ultra, where he's a really convincing action star. So like, if he wanted to do he could do these movies, and yeah, the Now You See Me movies. If you haven't seen them, I recommend them. They're really fun movies. If you like,
they're fun. Yeah, they're fun movies.
And also, Woody Harrelson is always fun because he's always high in movies, and he's always fun.
Listen, Woody Harrelson is a national treasure who went to college in Indiana. So
yeah, he's a delight. He's an absolute delight.
Woody Harrelson always gets my stamp of approval.
He plays an annoying.
He's having a good time in those movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In the second one, he gets to play his twin brother, who is annoying but also really funny. But yeah, those movies are really fun. They're totally worth checking out. I'm legit excited. And yeah, there was a Dan Harmon joke where he was like, the biggest missed opportunity was to not call the second one Now You Don't. Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And now they've rectified that with the third one by calling it Now You See Me, Now You Don't. And that just made me happy. So apparently, I didn't think that they were going to do this, but there's a new Deadpool movie in development with
Of course
Ryan
there
Reynolds.
is. There absolutely should be, because Deadpool. Okay, here's we said this. Well, actually, we said this with Deadpool 2, but especially with Deadpool 3. If Deadpool's in a movie, just print money, because it's going to make money.
Sure, but my pushback to that is that, and Ryan Reynolds even said this. He said he didn't want to do Deadpool 4. That's what the surprise. He was like, no Deadpool 4. Deadpool is he. I can't do anything more with him. If he were to come back, he would probably more or less come back as a side character or a secondary character. So maybe that's what, because this is a supposedly a Deadpool and X-Men movie. So maybe it's gonna go like lean more of what Deadpool 3 did, of be like that was a co-Wolverine movie, so this will now be a co-X-Men movie, maybe. So
I could I
I'm fine
I
with
could
it.
see that. Because yeah, my I like Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool, and I like those movies. But my concern with the more movies you make, the more full movies you make. Like I'm absolutely into using the character, but like you can have him be in other products, like other things, and just have him show up. My concern with having too many Deadpool movies is that it saturates the market, and it just becomes too much. If that makes sense.
yeah, I don't disagree with that. I mean, I I I want him to be in. I want him to be in the Avengers. Like I want them to do just
Oh,
like
see,
a pass by where he's just in a background. He's a background cameo.
if I could have anything, which this is not going to happen, but if I could have anything, I would want him to be in the next Spider-Man movie. I want it to be like a PG-13 movie where he can't curse, he can't swear, and he gets one fuck. And like the entire movie, he's saving it up. And in the last scene, Spider-Man uses it, and he goes like, "What the?" And it cuts to black before he can say it.
That'd be amazing. But so the question of this X-Men Deadpool movie, do you guys think it'll be R-rated?
Um, Maybe.
Ironically, Deadpool's not the deciding factor of that. It would be, how dark do they want this X-Men movie to be? Because
Yeah,
potentially it could
agreed.
be, but it could also very easily be a PG-13 movie. And they can actually, because I like that gag. I really like that gag that you're talking about. And that can be a gag in every Deadpool movie. But the first one, because I like your idea with Spider-Man taking it.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if he's in an X-Men movie first, they can do that same joke, but Deadpool gets it in the end, and then when they do Spider-Man, they can subvert that and give it to
I mean,
Spider-Man.
they could do that. They could also just do the thing where in each of these movies he ramps up to do it, and then he keeps getting cut off, and then like in the last one, you finally let him, whoever he teams up with in the last one, you finally let him get the swear and be like, "Hey, I finally got it, you mother," and then it cuts off again.
That'd be so much fun. I mean,
I like
he's
it.
probably gonna be in the Doomsday movie, at least because they asked him about it, and he was like, probably, which I
Hey,
appreciated.
Tilly's 90.
Till he's 90, yeah. Hey, I'm for it. I'm for it. Apparently, yeah,
Yeah,
Spider-Man is gonna be
I
in
mean,
that,
like
but
I
it
said,
won't be Tom Holland.
I
Apparently.
absolutely don't mind seeing more of him as Deadpool, like in other products and other movies. Have him show up, have him be in random cameos at the end of credits where like he makes no sense and he can just be like random. That's great to me.
I
That's
just
hilarious.
with these masked characters,
Um,
I don't get it. You get a stunt guy in the costume, and you put Ryan Reynolds in a sound booth, and you just have him do the voice. Like that's what I.
right? Like it'd be
Yeah.
very
See,
easy.
I know why they would do that, but to me, it's got to be Ryan Reynolds. That's because that's the joke. It's the same reason the joke where Brad Pitt playing the Vanisher.
Yeah,
It
yeah, you're right.
works because it's actually Brad Pitt,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, that's true. That's a valid point.
But I was on the bandwagon of people that were petitioning Marvel to have Deadpool replace Stan Lee after he passed in
I
all
was for
the
that.
random cameos. But I even wanted, like, if it were me, among other changes, I would do the Deadpool thing, but I wouldn't make. He'd be in every movie, but it may not be an obvious cameo. There may be a shot, and it becomes kind of like a Where's Waldo game that you can
Yeah,
play.
I'd be down for that.
What I wanted out of Doomsday is I want them to do like a montage of like multiple versions of different characters, and just one of them is just Pirate Deadpool, and then that's just, it's
See,
just
I
that's
I love that idea, and I think I said this to you off screen, Justin. I love that idea, but instead of it being Pirate Deadpool, what I want is or you have Pirate Deadpool, but on top of Pirate Deadpool, I want there to be just be a scene where where it's Ryan Reynolds and he's sitting there and he's reading the script, like the script which says in big obvious letters on the thing. Deadpool 5 or Deadpool 6 or whatever, and it's just him reading the script, and he looks up and he's like, move along, like, go on. And the movie just continues on from there.
Yes, I loved it. I love him more Deadpool, but I understand Ryan Reynolds. I get what he's saying, where he's like, yeah, if you do too much with this character, he becomes annoying, and I respect him for getting that. I think ultimately,
Yeah, basically, don't do a Star Wars.
yeah, don't do,
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna get there.
Spoiler.
Spoilers for Star Wars. No. So yeah, I sent both of you the trailer for that Rock movie, the Smashing Machine, and just
Yeah, you did.
immediately, do you think this gets him that Oscar, or do you think it gets him at least Oscar thoughts or nomination, not nomination, but like Oscar buzz is the word I was looking for.
No.
You don't think so?
I don't think.
No.
I don't think it wins him anything. I think it maybe gets him a nomination, but I don't think it wins him anything.
I certainly think that this will change his career. I think this is him making that turn into I do serious dramas now. At least that's what it kind of seems.
I mean, I will say when I saw him in the trailer, I was like, wow, he doesn't look like The Rock, which I think is kind of impressive. Or at least to me, he looked different.
Yeah,
something about him.
It's definitely a physical transformation going there. Sorry, Jake, go ahead.
Oh, I just hope he doesn't go down the Dave Bautista route where, like, not to say I'm glad that he wants to do other kinds of roles rather than the big shirtless action scene guy, but with Bautista, in my opinion, means nothing. He makes so much more money than I do, but don't forget what brought you to the dance. Like, there was a reason you were cast as Drax, and that was your entry into Hollywood.
Yeah.
So it's happened with so many actors where, again, like I said, don't forget what brought you to the dance, because when you start shitting on what brought you to the dance, it comes across as petty.
Yeah.
And ungrateful.
Ungrateful. That's a much better. Yeah. Like Robert Pattinson shitting on Twilight. Like, hey, listen, Twilight has problems, but it also made you a worldwide name. So
that is I think The Rock tried that.
I was gonna say in the example of The Rock, I kind of feel like he's already done that. He's gotten to the point where he's too big for his britches in a lot of ways, and he in some ways at times comes across as ungrateful to me. What do I know? Again, he makes more money in a single movie than I will probably make in my lifetime.
I think he went through that when he tried to be like, what era was that? Like Tooth Fairy Rock, where he's like, I'm gonna go off and be Dwayne Johnson action star, and it just didn't work for him, and then he came crawling back to the WWE. I think he's been through that. I don't know that Dave Bautista will go through that. But also, okay, here's a question, unrelated question. Who of the wrestlers turned actor is the best? Is it Dave Bautista? A lot of people seem to think it's Dave Bautista. I don't disagree. But
I think it might be Cena.
It might be Cena. I think with The Rock, this is his chance to prove this Smashing Machine movie, which looks good, by the way. Like, it looks good.
I mean, I suppose for me it depends on whether, when you say does the best, are we talking in terms of pure ability, or are we talking in terms of reach?
Like, who's the
because
best actor?
in terms of reach, it has to be The Rock.
Yeah,
it's clearly The Rock. If you're going by reach or box office, it's clearly The Rock.
Yeah, I guess.
But
maybe
partially because he's been doing it longer than the other two. I mean, he's been appearing in television since the 90s and in serious movies since, when did the Scorpion King come? I think that was the late 90s too. What was that, 99, 98?
I want to say 2000, early 2000s.
Maybe it was 2000.
Because I think the first one's 99, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I
in
think you're
terms
right.
of like if we're talking comedies and stuff, I think something has to be said for Hulk Hogan. He's hilarious.
Oh, Hogan.
But he's not trying to be hilarious though.
I
Yeah, he's a
mean, fair.
he's a bad actor.
I'm gonna be an action star.
Yeah.
You
Brother.
can.
I mean, at least the Rock, at least the Hulk always knew that he was he was bigger than everyone else. He didn't do that thing where he had to pretend to lose to someone smaller than him than the Rock did. Like one of my favorite Rock scenes is in I think it's Snitch, where he has to fight a bunch of guys who are like half his size and convincingly looked like he lost to them.
I
Very
think though,
funny.
I think I would agree probably John Cena as well though in terms of ability.
John Cena's really good. He is really good.
Yeah. And he's
Peacemaker
just
is like severely
he
underrated. That show's
feels
quite good.
feels more natural, I think is also the thing for me.
I just
Per- Personally.
yeah, but Smashing Machine. I thought it was funny that he is Dwayne Johnson in this. He's not The Rock. No Rock name. He is Dwayne Johnson. Serious actor face. But yeah, I think this is going to be one of those ones where people are like, "Oh, The Rock can act." Now, Jake, are you a UFC guy? I can never remember this.
Not hardcore.
No.
I wouldn't go so far as to say I'm like a super fan. I'm aware of it, but I'm not a like
I would
I
say
don't
the
buy all
same
the
for
pay
me.
per views. Yeah.
No, yeah, I know about its early history because it was highly entertaining. If you like circus freak acts, it's really fun.
I have a general knowledge is
Yeah,
what I would say.
and I just like fight movies, like boxing movies, UFC, and I like the inclusion of more legitimate UFC movies that aren't like Never Back Down or like. So I appreciate.
Don't hate, don't hate, don't hate, don't hate on Never Back Down.
I like that movie, but I also like Warrior, which has a bit more like it feels.
Warrior's a much better movie.
Yeah,
but
this feels a little bit more like Warrior and a little less like Never Back Down. But yeah,
I was gonna say Never Back Down is just Karate Kid, but with MMA.
with
That's the
violence
only
and
difference.
Hold on, I'm stalling. I'm stalling while I read this.
Well, I'll stall for any of you that disagree with me. Okay, here's the thing: watch the Karate Kid again, and then watch Never Back Down, and literally story beat by story beat, it's the same, with the exception that Daniel is never told by Mr. Miyagi that he's not going to teach him anymore. That's just the only difference.
Interesting.
Yeah, that's true.
Very
Yeah.
interesting.
It's other than that, it's literally the same movie.
Okay, so the reason why I had to stall. Okay, I was gonna do this in a funny like guess what the reasoning was kind of way, but it's really more the explanation is really more mechanical than it is in universe. But the question was, George Lucas finally confirmed why Yoda speaks backwards, right? And so I'm looking at this article, and I'm like, oh, he's given some sort of in-universe reason, like it's his species, or it's like he's got brain damage because there's an episode of the because there's an episode of Tales of the Jedi, I think, where you see Yaddle. She confronts. It's basically when Count Dooku goes like full evil. She ends up fighting Count Dooku, and Count Dooku, I think, kills her. But she speaks like a regular person. She speaks totally
She
normal.
talks normal.
So it's like, is it just Yoda?
So it's not a species thing at that point. Clearly, it's so. Does Yoda just have brain damage?
Right. And so this article, I'm expecting something in universe as an explanation, right? So this is the reason why George Lucas made Yoda speak backwards in the Star Wars movies.
Hold on. Let me guess. Because it was a kids movie, and he wanted to appeal to kids.
No, not really. Kind of. He said that because if you speak regular English, people won't listen that much. But if he had an accent, or he's really hard to understand, they won't focus on what he's saying. So it's just mechanically to make the kids pay attention to what he's saying.
Is that not what I basically just said?
Yes, but his answer was far more boring.
Oh. but still essentially the same thing. So
once again, you've given this creator far more credit than I think maybe he deserves.
Basically, basically said what you is it.
What you is it?
What?
Interesting. Okay, so during the recent AFI Lifetime Achievement Awards ceremony, Steven Spielberg named the best American movie ever made. we will take a guess. Do you guys want to take a crack at what you think Steven Spielberg said was the best movie ever made? Do you think he was vain enough to say one of his own movies?
I was going to say no. I don't think he's vain enough to say it was one of his.
Okay, so I'll play this two ways. I'll guess one. I'll guess under the assumption he is vain enough to guess one of his own movies and say E.T.
Okay.
And I will guess not vain and say that it was his good friend George Lucas's movie Star Wars.
Interesting choice. Jake, what do you got?
If it is one of his, it's clearly Back to the Future. But if it's not one of his,
he didn't direct Back to the Future. That was Bob Zemeckis.
Right, but he produced it. Oh, okay. So you're talking about his directing.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
Oh, you're right. Oh, okay. So maybe he did say Back to the Future because you're right. That's technically not it's not technically a Spielberg picture.
So there you go. That's not vain, but a not vain one. What do you think?
I mean, he'd probably say something like Avatar.
That's funny. You're all wrong. You're both wrong. You're not. I figured Jordan might get a bit closer. Basically, we did the top 100 AFI top 100 list for an episode, but he said The Godfather, greatest American movie ever made.
Okay, all right. I guess.
Which,
I've never watched it, so I would know.
It's a pretty good movie.
I was gonna say that's not really one where you can be like, oh come on. You're like, yeah, okay,
it's pretty good. And like, who am I to disagree with Steven Spielberg, a man who occupies at least 4 to 5 entries on that list? And so who am I to disagree with him? It's a pretty darn good movie.
Man seems to know what he's talking about.
Man does seem to know what he's talking about. So apparently, apparently this is completely unrelated. But the production on that Clayface movie, they're making a Clayface movie, and it's based on. How familiar are you familiar with Clayface, Jake?
Oh yeah.
It's the one where he's an actor. That's the one that they're doing, and he discovers he can. They're beginning production on October 1st, 2025 of this year. We want it to be Daniel Radcliffe. They have not announced casting yet. We want it to be Daniel Radcliffe. But I would want Daniel Radcliffe in just about everything.
I do enjoy a good Daniel Radcliffe movie.
I'd watch it.
That would certainly be a surprise because I don't think a lot of people would see that coming. And he could deliver. He could do it.
He is surprisingly underrated. I made fun of his height. I discovered that he has an illness. That's why he's short. Apparently,
he has an illness.
Yeah, he has some sort of illness, some sort of autoimmune disease, and that's why he's short like that. But
it's one which apparently makes it difficult to like tie your shoelaces and do like fine motor detail and stuff.
Yeah. And I was like, oh, because he's funny because in all of his movies he's like half the height of everybody, but he's supposed to be more physically intimidating than them. Like that Imperium movie was kind of funny at points because he's supposed to be serious and he gets into the truck and like he looks like he's getting in it like a big boy, like honk honk, and you're like, oh, you're supposed to be intimidating. Oh, and then I found out it was because he has like some sort of illness, and I felt bad.
But yeah, I enjoy.
He's gonna get in his big boy truck.
His big boy truck.
His big boy truck. Vroom vroom.
Vroom.
I had a friend of a friend many years ago named Kyle, and his big thing was every time he would see like a large truck, he'd always say like, "Oh, I got a big old truck."
Honk, honk. I mean, every time I see a truck, I'm always tempted to. Yeah. No, I will watch. My dream is still a Daniel Radcliffe Rock action team up movie. That's my dream. But Daniel Radcliffe is the one who's the badass action hero, and the Rock is the pussy. Or the straight man, as it were, the guy who.
I want to see this. Yeah, we're like Daniel Radcliffe is the bulldog. Which they kind of already made that movie with Hobbs and Shaw, but
I mean, like a little bit.
You could do that one of two ways. You could make it where the character is that's just how they are, or you could do it, and this could be fun, where it's a body swap, and so you
That would
have The
also be
Rock
fun.
acting as Daniel Radcliffe and Daniel Radcliffe
That
acting as The Rock.
that would be
That
fun.
could be a
I
lot of
would.
fun too.
I'd pay money to watch Daniel Radcliffe do the eyebrow.
Right, right. Like, oh my god, it'll be so. Daniel Radcliffe is so. Like, have you seen Weird?
No, I have not.
Oh, if you have not seen Weird, if you're a Weird Al fan, like at all, totally recommend it. But there's a
I need
really,
to. It's on my list.
it's really, it's weird. It's very weird, appropriately so. But
It's appropriately named.
there's a really fun action sequence, yeah, where Daniel Radcliffe, I think he's shirtless, but as Weird Al Yankovic fights off like an army of ninjas, and it's like a confidently well shot, well made, believable action sequence. Like it's really, I mean, he rises out of
It's a delight.
he rises out of the water completely naked in an egg, playing Beat It. It's worth it.
Well, that's right in line because have either of you guys seen UHF?
Yes, I have. Yes,
I don't think so.
So good.
It's right in line. It's right in line with UHF.
Oh, I have to
That
watch
would
that for one of
fit.
the weeks. Yes, it's very similar to UHF. It's his. He's got such an odd. It's such an R rate. It's like a PG rated R rated sense of humor. It's hard to describe. Where it's like these jokes are dirty, but he doesn't say a single curse word. It's really quite remarkable. He is, in my opinion, an American treasure.
Who, Weird Al or
Yeah.
Daniel Radcliffe?
I mean,
Okay.
Yeah,
Dan
yes.
Radcliffe is a British treasure, but yes, but no, Weird Al, he's an American treasure as far as I'm concerned. So one of your greatest exports is Weird Al Yankovic.
Whoops.
And then finally, we'll do one more guessing game for the news because I think it'll be funny. You guys remember Joker 2 doing a poo?
I am aware of it.
You want to know how big a poo it did?
I'm gonna say it was 12 Kuriks.
Wow, that's quite a large poo. Okay, would you like to
Five,
guess?
five pounds.
Would you like to guess how many money it lost at the box office for Warner Brothers?
Oh,
2 Bonos.
are we guessing? Bonos. Are we guessing what the budget was as well, or are you going to give us the budget?
Well, okay, I guess we could do the budget. Well, I'll tell you what it made. It made $207 million.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. So I'm guessing it had a budget of 400 million.
This said it had about a 200 million budget, but then 370
Okay.
million in marketing.
Yep. Oh. Ouch.
But
So it did not do very well.
no, if you get no guesses for how much you think it lost.
I mean, you just told us.
No, well, it lost 150 million. Is how much it ended up losing.
Ah.
So when you do a film production budget, you do it's like 200 million, and then you like double it for marketing. So it ends up being 400 million. So if the production is 200 million, so yeah, I guess it lost 100 million. So big stinky pooey Bono bomb. Bono size Bono size poopy bomb.
That's a lot of Panda Express.
It's a lot of Panda Express. It was not. Well, we're gonna have to get Jordan to watch it one day, so he understands.
Sharon.
That's it. That's the news that I thought Jake would know something about. Today we got 2 sponsors. Today, our number 1 sponsor is our main lead sponsor every single episode. They sponsor the show, and that is aretamemedia.org, and Jake, and the Pantheon, and all the shows that Jake do, including the show that we do together, the Star Trek one. We talk about Star Trek. We're on hiatus currently, but we'll be back to talk about more Star Trek. Jake does the Average Intelligence podcast, which I will be on this week to teach Jake about Canadian politics with our good friend Toast. He's Eastern Canadian. I am Western Canadian. It's going to be interesting. That situation keeps evolving every day, and I'm like, man, maybe it's a good thing you were like next week. Yeah, that's going to be interesting. It's funny when you were on. Quick aside, when you were telling Eric about the block, it was very funny because I'm like, the block requires explanation. Like,
They're a thing.
yeah, they're a thing. Yeah, him in that debate, just real quick, is sort of like if you had a guy from California who was like, California is its own country. And I don't want to be president. And he was at the presidential debate with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. That's kind of.
It's asinine.
We'll explain that on Wednesday. Don't you worry. But yes,
That was one of those things I picked up on what was going on, but yes, I think the average American is going to be very confused by that, which, fair enough, I don't think the average American watched it or even knew that there was an election going on in Canada until after the fact. But
my favorite bit about that is all of the American media pretending like they were paying attention, but they clearly weren't. And there was no better example of that than Stephen Colbert, who did this like really smug, like post-election Canada. It's the smugness of your liberal of your left, pretending like they did something on our behalf, being like, "See, yeah, Canada did it. Canada did this thing." As he shows a map where he has the Canadian Liberals painted as blue and the Canadian Conservatives painted red, and like that's not our Liberals are.
I guarantee you, I can explain why he did that. It's because the colors are reverse in the States.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he doesn't want to confuse the American audience.
Yeah, absolutely. But it was really even more confusing. In Australia, they just had their election. Similar result. The far right guy got shut out and the left guy won. But in their country, the Liberal Party is conservative. That's their far right party is the Liberals. Just to be confusing.
Just to be extra confusing.
Well, okay, that makes sense though because they're in the southern hemisphere, so everything's reversed.
Yeah, no, that checks out. Okay,
yeah. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about that on Wednesday.
What you want? State-sponsored healthcare? You fascist?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, it's funny because like our Liberal Party is probably it's more conservative. Is conservative. It's just by comparison, it seems it's much more left. Politics is weird. Anyway, yeah, that's on Jake's podcast, the Average Intelligence podcast, on Wednesday, and then on Thursday he does a wrestling podcast, and then on Tuesday he's on Toon Talk with Virus Fox, friend of the show, Virus Fox. I think I got them all. I feel like I got them all. Yeah. RTmedia.org. Go check him out. And then our other sponsor for today is Jordan actually got this one. Jordan got this one. And because it's Star Wars Day, he was extra insistent. But we got these guys. These guys.
You're making it awkward,
Weston. There we go. Yeah, mine's green. Yeah.
Okay, sometimes
you can't hear it. You can't hear it, but it's making noises.
Yeah, you can't hear it. And if you use... I'm going to turn this off. Because it's making noise. Hold on. Oh, God. Come on.
It's very, very well-made metal.
Very well-made.
Like, this is like pretty... There
we go. Okay.
Pretty heavy material. And the one that I bought, which is these ones, they can actually be screwed together to be a double-sided lightsaber. So these two that we have can actually be one lightsaber. It has sound card in there, so it has a bunch of sound effects on there, a bunch of which I can't even figure out how to access because I just haven't figured it out. And it can change colors as well. And you can choose... So, unlike other ones, you can choose to... If I can get this... Hold on. No. Well, I can't do it easily. But you can cycle between colors of red, blue, green, white, cyan blue, purple, a bunch of different colors. And it makes noises as you move it because it's got like a sensor in there. When you hit another lightsaber, it makes the proper sound. It's cool. It was...
And... If you use a link in our description, and you use our code Spur of the Mo 7. The code number is there in the description. You get 7% off of your order if you use our code and you want a lightsaber for Star Wars Day. You can do that.
So yeah, check that out. End sabers.
They're honestly really cool and they're really durable, and they hurt when you thwack someone with them.
Yeah, yeah.
And these
yeah, you know, it does real damage.
Yeah.
These ones are the blades on them are training blades, so like they're meant to be hit. So it's not like other models that you can buy where the second you hit someone with it breaks in half. These ones are like designed to be used as like training blades, and on the website, if you did break your blade, you can buy the blade part, like the actual blade part, separately and individually, and it screws in, and yeah, it's really cool. So that's End Sabers.
End Saber. Sorry, I just laughed because I looked at my list and it reminded me what I watched this week. Okay, that's the sponsorship. That's the sponsorship of the week. Yes, it's May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. And as such, we're here. We're here for Star Wars. Nothing but Star Wars.
Nothing but Star Wars.
And yes, we have crafted a selection of various Star Wars entries. And yeah, we're gonna attempt to guess. Has Jake seen it? Jordan, go first.
Jordan, go first. I would be very surprised if both of you. I mean, I know Justin has seen this, but I'd be very surprised if Jake had not seen the original Star Wars, Episode 4.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess.
A New Hope. I would be very surprised if he has not seen this one. This is the classic. This is the original. This is the one where it all starts with. I don't need to tell the audience what this one is, but I had to watch it, of course. I get two of the mainline ones this week, and this had to be one of them because it's Star Wars. It's
Star
a classic.
Wars is the space with which all Star Wars comes from. It's where it's hard for me not to say it's my favorite Star Wars. It's also like just the most. It's a nice, basic, simple. I don't think it's very long story. Like it's not overly difficult, not overly complicated.
It's an hour, or it's 121 minutes.
Really?
Yeah. So just at 2 hours, it seems like it should be longer, but yeah, no,
yeah, no. I seem to recall the pacing on it being like the pacing on this is so good. Like it's just a really well-paced movie.
There's a lot I really like about this movie, but one thing that you know, ever since it's been pointed out to me, it kind of chafes me the wrong way. Is, man, Chewbacca gets screwed at the end. How come he doesn't get a medal?
Oh, no,
Luke and Han, they're standing there with their medals, like they're all proud in the ceremony.
Well,
Chewbacca gets screwed.
Co-pilots don't get medals.
I mean, but
I mean, Luke wasn't a pilot, so why'd he get a medal? I mean, I guess he was at the end there. Yeah, okay. Never mind. Stand corrected. I was thinking of the Millennium Falcon, and I was like, Han's the captain of that. No, but yeah, I get what you're saying. But I still no bullshit. Chewbacca should have got a medal.
I mean, these days, if Star Wars were made today, Chewie would have absolutely gotten a medal because they would have wanted to be inclusive, right?
Sure.
I mean, yeah, or it would have been a participation one.
No.
Everyone, all of the soldiers would have gotten one because they were all there.
He showed up. He went. Sure, he didn't take the shot or fly the ship, but he was there.
He was. I mean, he was there the whole time.
But no, I mean, joking aside, I love the movie. So, it's
what was the first
great
version of Star Wars you ever saw?
It was the original trilogy.
Right, no, but I mean, like, was it like the 1997 special editions? Did you?
It was actually, yeah, it was the special edition in theaters.
In theaters. Oh, interesting. So we had the box set. Where if you put them all together, where it made the Stormtrooper. Yeah, we had that for you. That was I think that's that special edition. Anakin is still the guy. He's not Hayden Christensen yet.
Yeah,
because that movie hadn't been made yet.
Right.
And I believe the one that we had. He was still the guy, but Jabba was an alien.
Yeah,
Like
Jabba's-
he wasn't a human
In-
like he was in the very
I think he's
original.
CGI at that point. Yeah.
Yeah, they add CGI Jabba into A New Hope
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
match with Return of the Jedi's puppet.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they were like, because he's like, that's what I always wanted Jabba to be like. Because George.
But in
Lucas-
in the very original version, he was a human.
yeah. Well,
Correct.
it's-
Yeah, he was just wearing fur.
It's funny because like I sort of discovered that like for as much as they give Star Wars shit for being like, oh my god, it's the 1,000th Star Wars spinoff. Star Wars has kind of always been like that. Like they just kind of always been like that. Like we're gonna be talking about some of their many spinoffs this week. But there was a lot of spinoffs in the 80s, like a shocking amount of spinoffs in the 80s. Speaking of which, Jordan, did either of you have anything further to speak on about first Star Wars?
I mean, other than the fact that Darth Vader is a badass, that's my final thought.
He's clearly a separate character. That's another thing. He's clearly not supposed to be Luke's dad. He's clearly a completely separate character. That's how that dialogue is framed. Be remiss if I didn't mention that. Okay, so my first thing, we're gonna go.
Leia's also clearly not his sister.
Right. You'd be remiss if we didn't mention that part of it.
The fact that Luke is like pining over her, that
Well,
was
she's not exactly innocent in all this either.
that's
Right?
true. That's
Right?
true.
He's like, help.
But yeah, no, they definitely were not originally meant to be siblings.
No.
Is the point?
No.
They were not.
They were not. No, it was not in his brain. Okay, so my first one. It's the 1980s animated Ewok show.
Wait, animated Ewok show?
So your reaction to that gives away the game. I'm gonna guess that you have not seen this.
I have not. I've never even heard of it.
No, yeah, it's
Interesting.
1985.
Yep.
It is a animated by a Canadian animation company Nelvana, and it is supposed to take place before Return of the Jedi, because the series finale sort of explains how the Empire wound up on the Ewok planet, but there's it's basically the main character is Wicket, the one called Wicket, that he's the main character, and it's about his little Ewok village, and there's various bad guys, magical bad guys. Like one of the bad guys is a witch, and then there's like other like evil bad guy characters, and it's kind of a fun show because much like many Star Wars shows, there's kind of an air of complexity to it, because like it does bear some level of serialization where like they'll introduce characters in early episodes and then they'll come back. So like there's an episode where there's like this roaming band of like bardic characters who travel from place to place, and then in a later episode you find out that that's because they've been cursed, that if they hang around in one place too long they get chased around by giant boulders, and so then that episode solves like that problem. And it's really kind of neat how like it's like light serialization, like at its core it's still like meant to be syndicated, and it's like, there's a bad guy, they beat the bad guy, everyone laughs in the end. Like it's one of those Saturday morning cartoon style shows. But yeah, it's really cute and it's really fun. When we were kids, we know about it because I don't know if there was a re-release or what, but they had VHS tapes, and there's two of them. They were a hard case. There was one that was the Droids show, and then there's one that was the Ewok show, and it was just a compilation of like the first, I think, 3 episodes into like an hour and a 20-minute movie. So that's why we know about it. But it's on Disney Plus under the Star Wars Vintage collection, and it's really cool. The Ewok universe is, as we're going to find out, remarkably varied.
Is that all you got to say about that one, Justin?
Yes. Also, Jordan, when you do your Ewok movie, you should do it after I do my Ewok movie.
That's fair. Just like I'm now going to do the droids after you've done this one.
Yes.
Which, judging by the previous reaction, I'm guessing you've not seen the 2D animated droids show either, Jake.
I have not, but I've at least heard of that one. I know it exists.
Okay. So yeah, it was created at the same time as the Ewok show as part of the Ewoks and Droids Adventure Hour.
Oh, that explains it. Oh, so that okay. That explains why they're
That's
both
why
that explains.
that's why the VHSs were bundled together, is because they were created at the same time to be
That
part of the same kind
explains.
of showtime
Oh.
period. Um, my show, however, only has 13 episodes and one special. As a side note, Justin, you remember how on Disney Plus it showed season 2 as one singular episode?
Yeah.
That's the special.
Interesting.
I didn't watch them all, but similar in vein to the Ewok show, you have um I'll read that comment in a section or in a second. But similar to the Ewok show, it has what are essentially arcs where you'll have like two or three episodes, or in some cases like 6, where 3PO and R2D2 will be under the care of that arc's masters, basically. And then usually by the end of the arc, the masters have their own thing that they need to go off and do, and they can't keep the droids anymore, so then the droids have to go off and find a new master. And in the show itself, they never directly say what time period it's supposed to take place in, other than it's during when the Empire exists. But retroactively, it's apparently been stated that it's supposed to take place between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
But
Um,
uh, all right. Okay. I mean
but
that's
but
clearly yeah.
there's nothing really in the show that indicates that. It just takes
No.
place when the Empire
That's
exists.
because that show came out in a period where they had no idea what happens before episode 4. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
As a side note, Star Wars fan 2002 says, hot take: the 2008 Star Wars The Clone Wars movie is overhated.
Put a pin in that. That's in my list. We'll do that next. Put a pin in that.
Uh, but one thing about the Droids show, which uh, was a fun fact for me, and it is a stupidly catchy theme song, or a stupidly catchy theme song. The theme song is performed by Stuart Copeland of The Police. And it's called Trouble Again. I played it for Justin earlier. It's stupidly catchy.
It's better than
Stuck
the
in my
Ewok
head.
one. The Ewok one was annoying. The Ewok. It's interesting that this one was less popular considering in terms of being enduring characters. Yeah, they put a lot of they went all in on Ewoks in the 80s. I don't know if the Ewoks were really popular in the 80s or what the deal was, but yeah, they got 2 movies and there's 2 seasons. Oh, I'm bad at math, and they're 13 episodes each. And what's interesting is that last season I mentioned the episode where they meet the Empire. They re-released that episode to be the series finale, but the episode reads as though like in season 3 it was going to be like now the Ewoks are in space and they're traveling through space with their droid sidekick, because they introduce a droid sidekick that they just kind of leave in the air. He leaves and he has a mysterious master that they don't say who it is, implying that maybe in the next season they might have had a Jedi, which is very strange because that show is supposed to, they've said, same as yours, takes place before episode 6 when they show up in episode 6, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, according to this Wikipedia, it says retroactively it's supposed to take place 2 years after Revenge of the Sith and 15 years before the events of A New Hope.
So I forgot.
Also, final thoughts that I have for this show. I can't help but wonder if the people that went and made the new trilogy, if they went back and watched this show, because one of the characters in this show is a bounty hunter called Kylo Ren.
Yeah, and he looks exactly like Kylo Ren.
Except that.
He looks suspiciously like Kylo Ren.
Except that.
Except fat, yeah. So I forgot to ask. Obviously, watch the original Star Wars. We didn't say that at the end of that first section, but that goes without saying, right? That movie holds up. It's still really good, and everyone should watch the original Star Wars. Like,
I mean, you can't. To me, you gotta go to your past so you can enjoy your future. Right? You gotta go and watch the original so that you can see how far we've fallen in some cases.
in some cases. And then um, the Ewok show is worth watching, like a few episodes, just like the first three, just to be like, hey, this was Star Wars in the '80s. And I feel like Jordan would probably say a similar thing of.
Yeah, I would. Yeah, a few episodes of this. Honestly, if there was ever a way to watch those VHSs that we watched, that's really the perfect sample.
Yeah.
For
Yeah.
like even this time, as I got to those episodes and I recognized them, I was like, um, those are kind of the best episodes, and it's like they're like the fourth or fifth episodes or something like that. Third, no, fourth. Yeah, I think the arc that I remember starts with the fourth, which clearly they felt that those were the best episodes as well, considering that VHS skips over like the first three episodes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, no, this has like actual C-3PO Anthony Daniels.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
you know,
Anthony Daniels, he has played C-3PO in every appearance he's ever made in anything. It's his like one thing. It gives him steady cash, but he also hates it. Anthony Daniels is a perplexing fellow. Jake, would you watch these on Disney Plus?
I highly doubt it because as heretical as this sounds, like, look, I like Star Wars, okay, but it's, especially now, I mean, it's it seems like just about every new product they put out erodes Star Wars like status in the cultural zeitgeist a little bit more, partially due to oversaturation and then partially due to the vast majority of it being bad,
Interesting.
and not adhering to the in-universe lore at all.
Well, I mean,
Just
and this will
I
come.
I also think something I've kind of come to realize with some of the newer stuff is it kind of at a certain point, and I have my opinions on when, but at a certain point to me, Star Wars stopped feeling like Star Wars.
that's
That's
a much
kind
better
of
way to put it. Yeah.
that's kind of how I feel about it. So it's
See,
like with some of this newer stuff, it's like I don't dislike aspects of it, but I just really feel like it's gotten away from everything that I loved about it
see,
in a lot of ways.
I get what you're saying. I do. But I also watched the holiday special this week. So, like, it's like, I get what you're saying, but what
It's not
is.
just the new stuff.
Right. That's kind of going to be my point where I'm like, it's not just the new stuff. I felt this way watching the Ewok show as well, where I'm like, this is for babies. And to be fair, when I was a baby, I loved this, right? So that's where I'm like, what even is Star Wars identity culturally? Because we're gonna talk about Andor. But okay, we put a pin in Jordan. That's it. That's it for the droids, right?
So yeah, that is. Star Wars fan 2002 says in the Angry Birds Star Wars version of the Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan fight Maul and Dooku on Tatooine. I mean, that just sounds not accurate.
That doesn't sound accurate. And also, there's an Angry Birds Star Wars version. Anyway,
apparently, I'm learning things today.
My next one is the 2008 Clone Wars movie. Now this is where it gets a bit tougher for me. I don't know how deep you are into the animated stuff, Jake. So I'm gonna guess that you have seen the 2008 movie, animated one.
I have.
You have. I'm just gonna. Before I say my thoughts on it, what are your thoughts on that movie?
And to be fair, it's been a minute. But at the time, I remember it being pretty refreshing because at that point we had not been inundated with series of Star Wars. So the fact that it was the launch, it was the springboard for the series.
Yes.
And it was, I didn't mind the animation and character design, but I know some people did. But this is also during a time where CG animation certainly wasn't new, but it was
of a higher quality than this.
Yeah, well, I think that has less to do with the quality and more to do with the designs, but I think they did the designs very specifically so that it would be easier and cheaper to animate going forward. But It was fine. Like there's nothing egregiously wrong with it. It adheres to the story that as we know it and adds to it, which anytime you have a supplemental piece of art like that, especially in the form of a series, because I hate mid cool movies like you do
Oh
because nothing matters. Because
no,
like we and to a point this does, but the point of this series isn't necessarily to see what happens to Anakin because we know where he
yeah,
ends up. And they wrote the series with that in mind because there are many moments where they only work because you know what's going to eventually happen to him.
Yeah.
yeah,
So
and
it's written as a midquel I'm sorry, a midquel series, but they know that. And when
yes.
Star Wars does that, that's honestly too to not to jump too far, but that's why the movie Rogue One works because the suspense in that movie is because we know what's coming.
Yeah, and we'll talk. Yeah, we will. We're going to talk about Rogue
Um,
One. Don't worry. That's on the docket.
Also, in terms of the character design for the movie and the 3D show, they are largely based on the 2D show,
Yes, yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
which we're gonna touch on as well.
My
Yep.
thing. Okay, so I have differing. We will talk about the Clone Wars 3D show because, in my opinion, that's a different beast than this movie. This movie, to me, it's bad because it's a movie. Like the animation is really cheap looking. Like to the
Oh
point
yeah,
that it looks like
this went to this
yeah
went to theaters, didn't it?
yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. With that in mind,
This looks like a bad straight to streaming movie, straight to DVD movie
Yeah,
that for some reason got to go to theaters and had no budget. Like it had like a $4 million, no, I think it was $20 million budget, and it ended up making 80 million. So like it was made cheap. It looks cheap. The character models look floaty as hell. The background animation looks cheap as shit. Like it's unforgiving to me because it went to theaters and this is Star Wars. Like I'd maybe be
yeah.
more forgiving if it didn't go to theaters.
What we sort of attributed this to off screen, and I still maintain this is those like Tarzan 2 or Atlantis 2 or
Buzz Lightyear's
those
Star
movies
Command.
which yeah, those movies which aren't movies but were actually like multiple episodes of a show that were combined into a movie to demonstrate how you could make a show of these things. That's what this was. That's
Yeah,
what this screams to
yeah.
me.
It's interesting though because the plot of this movie is they're rescuing Jabba the Hutt's son, who is going to be in. I saw a very brief glimpse of him, but he is I think the bad guy in that Grogu Mandalorian movie. And
Interesting.
he's being played by Jeremy Allen White, and he's apparently got giant muscles. They're calling him Muscles the Hutt,
That's hilarious.
which made me laugh.
Doesn't this one also have that other, from what I remember, that other Hutt who talks like he's the senator of the sa da 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 da
Yeah, he's got
da
that. He got that New Orleans drawl. I'm from
New
the
Orleans
yeah,
drawl.
yeah. He's
Yeah,
yeah. And it's yeah. There's a couple of sequences in it that are fun, but yeah, it's just it looks bad. And not to give away my thoughts on the show, I didn't hate how the show looked because I was like, yeah, the show's cheap looking, but it's also a television show, so like you're more forgiving of it. And yeah, some of the performances these guys are like haven't quite nailed it yet. But yeah, no, I did not. I think it's probably like just in terms of being movies, I think it's probably the worst Star Wars movie. Like just by lieu of the fact that like the other ones don't look cheap quite like this one does. Like this thing looked like it got shoved into theaters because they thought they could sneak a buck. That's kind of just what it looks like. Um,
yeah.
so would you tell
I mean,
people to watch it? Like
that's a fair assertion.
like you're like, okay, you're doing a Star Wars marathon. Do you skip this?
I have two answers, and it depends on what kind of marathon. Because are we going with like a true marathon where you have to watch everything, or are we doing a highlight marathon where you watch the good stuff?
Um, I dealer's choice. We'll go dealer's choice.
Well, answer should be obvious. If you must watch it, then yes, obviously you're going to watch it. But if we're picking the good stuff, I don't think this is even really necessary because the show I would say is necessary.
Yeah, that's
This
kind of what I would agree.
This movie, not so much. it kind of is the inciting incident for the series, but you
Oh,
don't
really?
need to have seen it.
I haven't
Oh,
watched
okay,
it.
that's
Like,
true. That's true. Well, I mean,
I mean,
you meet Ahsoka and all
Oh,
that.
true. It is the
yeah,
introduction of Ahsoka.
that's
True.
the only reason why I would say that you would have to is
Yeah,
because
but
it
you
introduces
can.
Ahsoka, but you can skip it.
Yeah, you can jump into any point in the Clone Wars series and understand fundamentally what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like I would say, if I was to give my answer, I would say skip the movie, and you don't have to watch all of the series, but there's certain key episodes and certain key spots which I think you do, like that last season in particular. Yes,
Oh, that last
absolutely.
season is
I
really
think
good,
you
though.
should. I think that should be watched as any part of any marathon where you have Ahsoka on Mandalore and you're like seeing Order 66 from her perspective,
Yeah.
and I love that season. I like the show. I'm not gonna lie. Like
That
I
season is legit well animated. Like, there's a fight
Yeah.
sequence between Darth Maul and Ahsoka that's like just legitimately
It's
good.
really good.
Yeah, it's legitimately like just objectively
so
really good.
Star Wars fan 2002 asks, do you think the 2008 Star Wars The Clone Wars movie would get less hate if it was live action and they brought back the actors from the prequel trilogy?
If they
Depends.
had done it, if
I,
they'd done it in 2008, no. But if they did it today, yes,
yes.
because everyone's like almost 30 years older.
I would say that most people's response to that 2008 Clone Wars movie was Jake's response, which is they made a Clone Wars movie. Like I don't think most people like I worked at the movie theater when that movie came out, and that was a fun movie to walk into because nobody was ever in it. Like I'm surprised it made money because where I worked nobody watched it. Like when we watched it, we were the only ones who were there, and we only watched it because it was Star Wars, and then we never really watched the series, which I well, we'll get to the series, but I was not a fan of the series early on. I am now, but I wasn't. But yeah, that's the Clone
Oh,
Wars.
early on, no. Early on, at best it's a kid show. Early on, now it becomes.
Honestly,
It gets good,
yeah,
is what I.
honestly, there's a solid. I want to talk about one episode I watched early on that kind of made me a lover of this show. When we talk about the show, that I enjoyed. So I'm like, I don't know, I'm digging it early on, but I'm really unforgiving of bad floaty 3D animation where it's like the worst example of it. Are you a fan of Kung Fu Panda?
I've seen the movies, yeah, and I'm aware of the series.
You've seen the series where it doesn't look like Poe weighs anything.
Right.
Yeah, that kind of floaty animation where it's like he's like a several hundred-pound panda. He doesn't look like, and this show is guilty of that, where the Jedi don't look like they have any weight, and it makes the action sequences look stiff and bad.
See, in the case of the Jedi, that doesn't bother me because I can explain that away. They're using the Force.
Yeah, but they
Makes them
sometimes
it
don't.
makes them light-footed. It's a stupid
Yeah, it's just
explanation.
sometimes they look like they don't
The,
have
the
bones.
the real answer is yeah, it's the animation. I know, I get that. I'm just saying
It's
for
cheap.
an in-universe lore reason, my headcanon is they're using the Force to be fleet of foot.
Yeah.
Uh, Star Wars fan 2002 says, I like the sequel trilogy, but do you think it would have been better if Luke trained both Finn and Rey at the same time?
Yes.
Yes.
Finn gets screwed in that sequel trilogy. he gets
Well,
screwed real bad.
not only that, I think that story, having Ray and Finn train together, and then having one of them, ideally Ray, but having one of them go to the dark side, makes it to where, because the sequel trilogy is essentially a retelling of the original trilogy, but essentially that's the same, but you get to do something a little different with it. And to me, I the sequel trilogy's hot garbage.
I
Like
mean,
there's
yeah.
I
there's
don't
nothing
disagree.
there's nothing good about it.
We're gonna
There's nothing good.
we're gonna talk. If there's, okay, I wouldn't. There are elements of it from storytelling that they used in later stuff that they do better in later stuff without giving anything away for later. That will make sense later, because like there's concepts in there, like story concepts that they don't execute well in the Last Jedi that I was interested in, but that they do badly. for me, it's not so much the idea of that and the ideas that movie has, but the execution that I have an inherent issue with.
It's all well. I'm not going to say it's all execution. It's mostly execution
It's
because
quite
take
a bit of it is execution.
in a vacuum, the grandson of Anakin Skywalker as a villain makes a lot of sense, and if you did it where he was actually intimidating and not a whiny crybaby bitch. No hate to Adam Driver, but like the character's just weak sauce. He wears a mask he doesn't even need to wear because he's cosplaying as Darth Vader, and they don't even realize what they're doing in the film. Like they're legitimately trying to make him look intimidating, but it's kind of like a kid trying to posture up, and everybody knows that he's not much of anything.
My thing is which character? Ray. Luke Skywalker. My thing with Luke Skywalker is same thing you said. In a vacuum, your hero who has been out of the game and is haggard and has to rediscover his love of the game, like that. That idea doesn't, like, you've done it 1,000 times with other like old style heroes like that. So it's not that it can't work. It's just, once again, we'll get to The Last Jedi. Jordan.
Well, because you can you can do that. You can do that in the sense of, like, let's say, just quick rewrite. Let's say that Luke goes into isolation because he is seeing the same seeds in the New Republic of what the Empire was doing, and he says, "Nah, I feel bad enough for having brought this sort of administration into being. I'm out."
Yeah,
because you guys are becoming the thing that we all fought against.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, we did our rewrite. We made him into the Emperor.
We did our rewrite a while ago. Yeah, we. The thing about the sequel trilogy is, for me, is there's potential there, but I think part of my frustration comes from the fact that they start with one director, the second director completely changes and doesn't do anything with the stuff that the first director set up. And then, while I don't like the things that he did, if they had then carried his things on into the third one and stuck with it and had the balls to keep doing the thing that they set up in the second one, maybe it would have been less of a hot garbage mess than bringing back the first guy to try and salvage what he originally set up, and it becomes this hot mess garbage of there's no clear vision, like no through line for the entire trilogy.
I also, as the guy who watched all of the modern Star Wars spin-offs, there is a thread through all of those modern Star Wars movies that I noticed that isn't as like glaringly obvious in like even as the prequels. And what wasn't present in the originals that is present that we'll get to. But Jordan, what is your next movie?
Next show. We're staying in the Clone Wars because I'm guessing. Okay, so whether or not Jake has seen this one, I'm guessing he has, but it's been a while. The 2D 2003 Clone Wars show.
Yeah.
They've got it on Disney Plus as 2-hour-long compilations per season.
Right, because that was many people forget that was what was known as a micro series.
Yep. It was a bumper. Yep. They used to play them as bumpers between commercials. That's how I saw most of it.
Yep.
Commercials, kids. Art, no kidding.
There used to be these things called advertisements where in the middle of your show they would then interrupt you and try to sell you things.
And you couldn't it wouldn't pop up and be like, skip this. You'd have to actually watch it or change to another. There were shows we used to call in between commercial shows where you put them on just while the commercials were on. So you only ever saw like 2 to 3 minutes of an episode of a time before you'd switch back to the show you were actually watching. Sorry. That's what this is, one of those.
For the viewers.
Right.
This is the predecessor of the 3D one and the movie and all that. And so there's definitely... This was my first time really watching it, other than, back in the day when I would see bits and pieces of it.
The best version it's the best version of General Grievous.
Oh, definitely. But that's because in this one, it was before they were told what General Grievous was actually supposed to be like.
It's
And
funny.
so he was intimidating in this one and actually scary and
It's
not an asthmatic coward.
it's funny because I watched a video where someone was like, "Why don't they just use the Force to crush his heart?" And in that cartoon, Mace Windu does that. He just uses the Force and crushes his chest. I was like, yeah, why doesn't he just do that in the movie? Well, he did. He did in that one cartoon.
That's the thing about that micro series is it was kind of like in a vacuum. It wasn't all that brutal, but for Star Wars, it was kind of brutal.
It
Like
was,
it,
yeah.
it made it seem like they were actually in a war and
Yeah.
not just like a glorified paintball fight.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're not wrong.
that sequence,
Um,
that series is really, yeah, it's really intense, really fast. Contains my favorite Anakin, one of my favorite Anakin moments, which is when he's during his trials and he's fighting the guys with the gas masks or whatever, and he gets his arm cut off and he's walking around like crushing their face in with the Force, which is his like stump. It's like, oh, that's badass.
um, yeah, so I will say, I definitely see the things that they took from this and then used in the 3D one. Like I see the through line or the evolution line, if you will. Um, but uh, in terms of an actual overarching story, the 3D one, and there's just more depth. There's more. They go into more. It's this was a micro series, so there's only so much they could do. But
I seem to remember a pretty badass lightsaber duel between Anakin and what's her name? Asajj Ventress, I think her name is.
yeah, Asajj Ventress in this one or the 3D one.
No, I thought in the micro series. I might
I
be
could believe that
misremembering.
it was in this one because there was definitely it was younger Anakin,
Yeah.
but there was definitely a fight scene between the two of them. One of the things that I kind of liked in this one, which they didn't really do in the 3D one, is in this one they show how Asajj comes to be training under Dooku, and like when he first interacts with her, she's got a blue and a green lightsaber instead of her classic red ones that she just has the entire time in the 3D one. And that's where I say it was kind of interesting to watch this because there's elements in this that are almost like prequel elements to that show, to the 3D show. So it was definitely it was an interesting watch, but yeah, that's there's 25 episodes, technically 3 seasons, and it takes like 2 hours to watch, and it's on Disney Plus.
So the two of you, would you say people should check it out? Is it worth checking out?
Um,
I do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah,
I do. There's
I,
definitely things in this show which are they're enjoyable to watch. Would I necessarily sit down and watch all 2 hours of it in one go? Probably not. I would say maybe watch as it was intended with the short episodes and don't do it all at once because
Yeah.
doing it all at once it was just it was a lot.
It's going to feel jarring. It's going to feel jarring because of how it was made. Like Jordan said, it's supposed to be bumpers
Yeah.
between
Yeah.
other shows. So if you try to sit down and watch it, it's going to be a real jarring cinematic experience.
yeah,
Yeah, it's not quite meant to be a 2 hour movie.
yeah, yeah. So I guess that dovetails beautifully into the 3D Clone Wars show, which I didn't watch a ton of. I think I watched 5 or 6 episodes of the first season, and like I will confess I used to really
You just scratched the surface.
I didn't like I used to not like this show because of its mid-quel status. It was hard to watch for the exact reason that like he goes off and no matter how much character development and how much character growth he goes through on the show, he still is destined to become Hayden Christensen. And I just couldn't get into it on that basis. I wasn't really enjoying it.
Yeah, I always had to kind of watch it when I did the first couple times. I always had to watch it as if it was like an Elseworld story, like its own story, and forget the movies.
I also
Like
just didn't like Ahsoka. Just did not care for Ahsoka.
she grows on you.
But
It does grow on you.
The cool thing about this show. How much of the show have you watched? Have you seen the whole thing, Jake?
Almost. I don't think I've ever finished it, but yeah, I know I haven't finished it, but I'm close to finishing it.
What I appreciated about it is it's not the Anakin Ahsoka show. It really is an ensemble show of like every episode you get to see different characters pair off, and it prevents the show from becoming boring, but it still manages to be serialized in a way that is engaging and interesting. Like, yeah, there was an early episode I watched. I was telling Jordan about the other day that I really enjoyed, where it was just a bunch of clones, and they're a group of clones they call shinies, and they're in this like outpost where they're just bored and nothing really happens. And like, yeah, you get to see, it was really, I discovered when it comes to death and Star Wars, the more you know a character, like it's so easy. Like I think George Lucas said the reason why all the stormtroopers look the same is so you don't feel anything when they die. And the thing about the clones is, even though they all look the same, they're all distinctive enough in their personalities that when you devote like an entire episode to a group of them, and then just out of nowhere a giant bugworm eats one of them, you're like, oh, I kind of like that one. Oh, that's kind of a shame.
Sixes was my favorite. Yeah, I really liked that clone.
I really quite liked that guy. He seemed like he was a decent enough guy. Or like, there's an episode where it's like, yeah, Jar Jar. Padme takes Jar Jar to this negotiation and then leaves him in the car, so it's up to Jar Jar to rescue her, and all the droids think he's this Jedi. And it's just a real fun, like, you're not expecting this team up between Jar Jar, Padme,
Mace Windu was in that episode, I think, right?
No, not
yeah,
that
I
one.
remember that one now that you mentioned it.
There's one. I maybe it wasn't that one, but there's one later on where Mace Windu has to team up with Jar Jar, and Mace Windu's patience is getting very much tested because Jar Jar keeps bumbling.
Yeah, I just appreciate, because it's like, oh, you see, this shows, oh yeah, there is sort of a value to Jar Jar. Like he has his sort of value, and I was like, yeah, that's pretty clever. But yeah, I appreciate that it doesn't devolve to, because it could just easily could be the Ahsoka Anakin show, and it's not that.
No. One of the things that the show does very well, and I think it's how it gets around its mid-quel sequence, or problem, I should say, is because there are so many Jedi that we don't see them in the movies, right? They're just Jedi they can introduce into this show, that they have stakes. Those are the Jedi that have stakes. They can die. They weren't in the movie, right?
Yeah.
And so
Go ahead. No, I was just gonna say, to me, the magic ingredient of that show and why it works as a midquel is Ahsoka. And the reason being is because she's a main character from day one, but she's not in Revenge of the Sith. So we know something happens. She may not necessarily die, but there's a reason that she is not palling around with Anakin by the time we get to Revenge of the Sith. And instead of, because it's like you said, it very easily could have been the Anakin show. That show's not the Anakin show, it's the Ahsoka show. Generally speaking, they do focus on other characters.
Yeah.
But that show is really about the evolution of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
If you watch it. And that to me is how and why it works, because we are watching to find out what happens to Ahsoka.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
We know something's going to happen.
Yeah.
But we just don't know what.
It's about Ahsoka and the horrible tragedy of child soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things I really do like about that show is you really do get the idea of how far the Jedi fall over the course of the show, and the things they're willing to do, and what they're willing to the lines they're willing to cross to get the job done, so to speak. And yeah, it's a very well made show, and I enjoy it.
Okay. Not to leap ahead too much, but the thing that this show really kind of changed my perspective, because I was getting really indignant about Andor. Being like, oh man, people get murdered on that show, and it just doesn't feel like Star Wars. This is not feeling like Star Wars. But then I'm watching Clone Wars, and guys just getting like shot, killed, dismembered, wiped out like they're nothing, with even more callousness than Andor. And I'm like, this is a show for children. So like, really, what is death in Star Wars? Like, what is your morality for being like, this is a thing for children?
The reason why it's not so dark in Clone Wars is because they're all clones. They're all identical. They can grow more. Same with the droids. They can just build more droids. They don't have personalities. But But in Andor, Justin, I assume I haven't watched it. They're people, like real people.
Yeah, but
That's why it's
a lot of the
darker.
people who are dying on
People
Clone
that
Wars are also
matter.
not just. Well, I guess he's a
Yeah,
bad guy, so it
exactly.
doesn't matter. Yeah, people who matter. Yeah, yeah. I was
The
just like,
clones don't have
they
souls.
don't have souls or personalities, even though they all dress distinctively. Um,
Sorry, Star Wars fan 2002. Do you mean the live action Attack of the Clones movie? Sorry. Star Wars fan 2002 says, "Did you know the clones were CGI in Attack of the Clones?" I assume they mean the movie.
I presume you
Yeah,
mean the movie.
certainly some of them were, especially in the big group shots. I
Yeah,
think some of the close-ups might have been, but maybe not. I don't know. They were very CG happy at that time.
yeah.
Still are.
Yeah,
George
they
Lucas
really were.
loves the CG,
They were like, why should we hire a person when we can just animate it in the computer?
right? But it,
And
but it,
fancy computer.
why build sets when we can have them be in a massive green screen room?
Oh,
Yes, and they can act to nothing.
Look at the ping
Won't affect
pong,
the,
Hayden.
it won't
Look at
affect their performance at all.
look at
um, but yeah, the Clone Wars show. Some of the fights in that last season are
that last season's legit.
particularly well done because they use motion
Yeah,
capture.
yeah. They
So like
Mm.
they are actually
I
doing the
think
fights.
I think they and I could be wrong. I could be wrong. I don't want to say this with confidence in case I am wrong. But I think Ray Park actually played. Uh, they brought
Darth
him
Maul?
back to
Yeah,
do Darth Maul's
I
motion
believe
capture
so.
for that
I
scene.
believe so. Yeah,
But yeah,
I'm
really
90% sure that's
that
correct because I
that
seem to remember seeing it in behind the scenes stuff.
that last season is indisputably well animated. Like for however much I used to shit on this show, I'd be like, I'm like, yeah, because like, yeah, it's still badly, like, it still looks cheap. Some of the Jedi fights look really stiff. But it's a television show. Like, yeah, I'm way more forgiving of this because it didn't go to theaters and receive a theatrical budget. This is a
No,
television show.
this was like actually on TV, like
Yeah.
olden time TV, like network
Olden time
television.
television.
Also, the best performer on that show is James Arnold Taylor, who's doing Obi-Wan. His Ian McGregor is better than the Hayden Christensen. It's a really solid Ian McGregor. And it kind of combines Ian McGregor and Alec Guinness in a way that kind of just works. That I think it's a better performance. Like early on, anyway. Perhaps later his Anakin gets a bit better, but he's still figuring out Anakin in that first season in a way that's just not working for me. Anyway, that's Clone Wars. That Clone Wars.
That Clone Wars. So okay, my next rapid fire is called Lego Star Wars Rebuild the Galaxy, which I somehow
I
I'm
haven't seen
guessing
it.
that Jake has not seen this one.
Oh, sorry, real quick,
Justin,
Jordan. Go watch Clone Wars. It's a good show.
I have watched Clone Wars. I'll go watch it again though.
I have not
I'll
seen
go
this.
I'll go I'll go watch it for like I think a third time.
I want to watch this. It's on my list.
I thought you had watched this
No,
one.
I still haven't watched it yet.
Oh, okay. Well, I won't spoil too much of it then, because this one's fun. It's a 4 episode miniseries, 4 part miniseries, so it's only four episodes.
Right.
4 episodes at like 20 minutes a piece, something like that. But basically, the main different new characters are introduced in this one. But the main character is a nerf herder and his brother. And he knows all the stories of the Star Wars, and he likes telling all the stories. And so one day, him and his brother end up at this forgotten Jedi temple. There's a special Lego piece, which is the cornerstone of the universe. He pulls it out, and the entire universe gets recombobulated and re put together. And so now everything's all different. And so you get things like Darth Ray. You get things like Darth Jar Jar. You get Shiv Palpatine, and you get like white suited Darth Vader who are Jedi now, and it's a real who's who of like everything is different
This
than you know.
sounds
So
so
like
good.
the TIE fighters, instead of looking like TIE fighters, they look like the rebel fighters, but they might make the TIE fighter noises. It's funny. Like it's just a delight and a joy. If you like Star Wars, it's a
I
lot of
do
fun and
like
it pokes
Star
fun at it
Wars.
all.
You had me at Darth
Um,
Jar Jar.
I'm never gonna forget when I saw the trailer and it had Darth Jar Jar, and I was like, oh my god, the fact that they're actually acknowledging Darth Jar Jar, and in some form he is now canon, is just so funny to me.
Right? Absolute
And
joy.
it was a brilliant from a physical toy standpoint. It was brilliant because they sold a bunch of these Legos as actual toys.
Oh yeah.
So like one of the things that they had in the show is the Black Millennium Falcon, which was like, you know, the evil Millennium Falcon. That was a toy set that they had, which had a bunch of the characters and stuff. So
Yep.
yeah, a lot of fun. You have a Mark Hamill, not Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, who is voiced by Mark Hamill in this.
Yeah, I know they
Uh,
got all my best to be Darth Jar Jar, which I thought was funny.
uh, they have him, and so he's like, so wait, let me get this straight. I was a recluse who didn't like the Jedi anymore. My nephew like tried to kill me, and I used the Force so hard that I died. And like they poke fun at it all, and it's so great. Like it's so
I
great.
used the Force so
I'm,
hard that I
I
died.
actually need to check that out. That sounds delightful.
I know. I want to see it. It's
I
on my
genuinely
list.
think you'll enjoy it. Like they've got so much fun stuff in there. You've got Billy D. Williams is in there as the Landalorian. Uh,
That's good.
you've got
That's good.
Jedi Jabba the Hutt shows up at one point. Yeah, there's. I don't want to give it all away because it's only 4 episodes, so it's not very long watch. But I genuinely hope they make more of it
Yeah.
because where it ends, they could keep
They
this going.
probably will. They probably will. This was
Sounds
incredibly
wonderful.
popular.
But that's all without spoiling further details. That's what I'm gonna say about Lego Star Wars: Rebuild the Galaxy.
So, I mean, we're both gonna go check that out. I feel like that it's on Disney Plus. It's on my list.
I think you guys would enjoy it.
I feel like Jordan's encouraging people to watch. Yeah, I haven't seen that. My next one is a movie called Solo, that Han Solo movie that killed Star Wars movies. That's the full title. And Jake, I feel like Jake has seen this.
I've not.
You have not seen Solo, really? That surprises me. Why not? I felt accused, but I'm genuinely curious.
Why haven't
not?
you seen this?
How dare you? And why not?
Here's why this movie's bad. Why not? No, I'm kidding.
Okay, so this is really the only thing I disliked about Rogue One. So to me, having a Star Wars movie without a lightsaber present is kind of like, why are we here?
Interesting. I mean, technically, there's a lightsaber present in Rogue One.
Oh yes, there is. Never mind. That's why Rogue One gets a pass. I forgot.
This
There is
does
a.
not have it, but you're not. So you weren't like, hey, all those boring questions that you never asked. I need those answered. You were never like that. Like
I didn't have too many Han Solo questions, and those that I did, I feel like I could just go on the internet and find them.
I will say, my dad, he was very excited about the Kessel Run, and how they explained how they finally explained how, even though he said it as though it were a unit of time, it's actually a unit of distance, and how he could have possibly done it in under a certain amount of parsecs. He really appreciated that movie very specifically explained how that was possible.
I just remember going to that movie and walking away being like, I didn't need this.
No,
Like I didn't need
it
this.
bombed horribly. It did very badly in the. Okay, here's my thing with with the modern Star Wars movies is they're all very dark. Like, just, I don't even mean like in terms of tone, in terms of story. I mean literally, they all have this,
Dark.
They're
Yeah.
very dark, and they have this ugly sepia tone, and they're so boring looking that's what this suffers from. Number one. Number two, might as well because I have the same issue with Rogue One and with The Last Jedi, where it feels designed to be spun off into other things. So like at the beginning of the movie, he joins the Imperial Army, and it does a hard cut 3 years later, and he's now in the Imperial Army, and that feels like that's put there so then Disney can put out a Star Wars book where it's Han Solo's war years, or a comic book where it's Han Solo's war. You know what I mean? Like it feels like it's designed to be spun off, or like it ends with him going off to meet Jabba the Hutt, to join Jabba the Hutt's crew. It's like it just feels cynically designed to be made into other things, which I get. That's what Star Wars has always been.
I was gonna say pretty much right from the beginning that was Star Wars, with the toys and the lightsabers. And
I guess because it's at its most transparent here, and it also has like the worst cameo in all of Star Wars, in my opinion. Where, okay, I'll do this now. Do you have any intentions of ever watching this? Because I'm gonna do a big spoiler. Okay. Well, the entire movie, they're like Han Solo and his love interest, played by Emilia Clarke, who tanks every franchise she's in. I'm not exaggerating.
Really? You think she tanked Game of Thrones?
I mean,
I don't think she tanked Game of Thrones. I think the writers tanked.
Have you seen that clip of her being like excited for the new season, and she looks like she's dying inside?
Well, wow, this is a diversion. Here's the thing. For years as a naysayer of Game of Thrones, I did finally watch it and I enjoyed it. I understand the issues with the last season that people have, but I think they were a touch overblown. Like it's not horrible, it's not great, but it's not horrible. My biggest problem was the Battle of Winterfell.
I mean,
I have to be honest, I never finished the series because I found it to be boring. My problem with Game of Thrones, and it was a problem that I had pretty much right from the beginning, there's too many characters. There's too many characters to keep track of. I would prefer if like we focus in on like 2 or 3 very specifically, like focus in on them. And like there's like 17,000 characters on that show, and I can't be bothered to learn all their names.
Well, funnily enough, my hot take with Game of Thrones is that it really is a story about 2 characters, and it's probably not the 2 you think.
Interesting.
That show is ostensibly about Jon Snow and Tyrion Lannister. Everybody else, Daenerys is a prominent character, but she, in the terms of the narrative, she is playing a role as an inciting incident. Now, one with agency and a lot of stake in the story, but ultimately that show is about Jon Snow and I guess Bran to a certain extent, but not really. It's mostly Jon Snow and Tyrion.
Also,
because you're with them, you're with them from the very beginning. And you follow and what they do in the show directly affects what happens in the entire narrative.
Also, I'd like to clarify. I would like to say that I don't think she kills franchises. I think that her presence does, because every franchise she's been in has ultimately died. I mean, she killed that.
Well, we all have an opinion, and you are welcome to yours.
I mean, she killed that Terminator sequel that was supposed to do a bunch of sequels and then bombed, and then.
But did she kill it, or did it die naturally on its own because it was meant to die?
And she was coincidentally in it.
And she happened to be there.
That can neither confirm nor deny.
I'm
so
mostly
what you're
playing,
saying is maybe you think the magic that she used. Well, she didn't use, but she paid for to be used on Khal Drogo kind of infected her future work as well.
I think so. Yeah,
it's there, but it's not alive.
Yeah,
it's just kind of.
Or it's the Solo movie. You ever been like, hey, you know those dice that are on the Millennium Falcon? Where'd those come from? Because that's how they mentioned that he won.
No, not once.
We mentioned how he won the ship in a game. You could watch him win it in the game, in the movie. I will say, Donald Glover. I always mix them up. The one who was on Community.
Donald Glover.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he as Lando is phenomenal. He's doing an impression that is really quite impeccable. Like it's really quite remarkable how much he sounds like the original Lando. Like it is like you know how whenever they hire the young version of a character, you're like, I just don't believe he's gonna age into
Into the other guy.
into Billy D. Williams. I fully believe he ages into Billy D. Williams. Like it's just that good of an impression. Also, it also has Woody Harrelson in it, and Woody Harrelson can do no wrong. So you know
He cannot.
he can do no wrong. So he's in it. He's
Even
pretty
when
good.
you even when you think Woody Harrelson is doing wrong, you're wrong.
You're wrong. But sorry, yeah. So I'm gonna spoil this movie. So if you haven't seen this movie for some reason and you care if it gets spoiled, I'm sorry. But the big thing is they're working for Paul Bettany, who is just completely insane, and he's got like this dagger that is kind of a lightsaber dagger. It's very strange, but he has his own boss, and Emilia Clarke betrays him and kills Paul Bettany, and it turns out that the big boss is actually Darth Maul, and Darth Maul appears on this hologram completely out of nowhere, and the movie clearly knows that the audience probably doesn't know who Darth Maul is, or certainly is completely terrified that you don't remember who Darth Maul is, because he for no reason lights his lightsaber just because. He has no rhyme or reason to. He just does it, so you know he's Darth Vader or he's Darth Maul, and that's it. And like, I remember at the time being like, this is the most incomprehensible cameo ever, because if you're like a mainstream audience member, you're like, wait, didn't he get sliced in half in the last movie and fall down a hole? How is he alive? It's like the ultimate form of like my big thing with modern Star Wars movies of like, I shouldn't have to do homework in order to understand why this character who was inexplicably dead for 20 years is now somehow alive.
Yeah, but as an aside, if I had one complaint about the Clone Wars show, I hate that they brought Darth Maul back. I love Darth Maul. He's badass in the first Star Wars movie. I love the twin-sided lightsaber, but they brought him back as a stupid spider monster. It was a stupid storyline, and I hate it.
Yeah, he somehow survived getting cut in half and is on a completely different planet as a giant angry spider monster.
I hate that storyline. I like the show otherwise, but that's really in that show like one of my only sticking points where I'm like, nah, can't let that one go.
But also,
love Darth Maul.
He's
but
also really good on that show, though. So it's kind of
yeah,
it's kind of hard
what
to be
what
mad
they
at
do
that
with
for too
him,
long.
like what they do with him later on in that show is great, and I love it. But the excuse that they use to bring him back is more what I hate.
Oh, here's a quasi-related question, Jake. You ever experienced, as a fellow content creator, people arguing with each other in your comments? Like, not with you, but with each other?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, it's always surreal because you're like, I never know what to do. Like, do I let this play out?
Do I step in? Do
No,
I
Steve,
stop it?
what you do is you take a can of gasoline and you pour it on the fire.
I kind of did. So I don't know if you saw. They announced they're doing a Darth Maul show, which is going to take place after, basically after this show. Basically, he's a gangster. Essentially, it's like after episode 2, but before episode, he gets killed by Obi-Wan.
Probably between episode 3 and 4, I'm guessing.
Yeah, well, yeah, something like that. And one of the comments was like, "Oh, I would have preferred if this was in live action," which like, that's fair.
Okay,
yeah.
Sure,
And so then someone responded with, "Why don't you go cry about it?" And I was like, "Okay, that seems."
Whoa!
I know that seems kind of mean.
That's
Why?
Yeah,
that's not an unfair. So I just responded with, "That's not an unfair perspective." Yeah, like I do think that a live action shows tend to be more interesting. Also, yeah, disproportionately, and I think Darth Maul looks more fun when he's doing his stuff in live action. But I like Darth Maul.
I mean, in that specific instance, I could go either way. Really, like it being in 3D means that you can do more for cheaper.
Yeah.
It being in live action, it would be badass seeing him in live action. Like I can go either way.
Yeah. Alden, in terms of Solo, Alden Ehrenreich. I'm totally butchering his name. The guy who plays Han Solo. He's not doing an exceptionally great Harrison Ford impression. It's only bad and made distracting by the fact that Donald Glover is so good, and as always, Chewie is always fun. There's a really funny bit where he's dragging Han Solo around by his ankle. That's really quite fun. It's this bad movie, guys. It's a bad movie. There's a reason why it killed Star Wars movies, because it was bad, and yeah, they freaked out. Apparently, I think at one point it was going to be directed by the guys who did the Spider-Verse movies. Those guys.
Oh,
and
okay.
It is directed by Ron Howard of all people. Yeah, it's bad. You don't waste your time, unless you're really curious about that Darth Maul cameo.
See, I still maintain the Last Jedi killed Star Wars.
I don't disagree.
Critically, maybe, but financially, no. That movie made a bunch of money. It was in terms of the
That's
actual
fair.
In terms of the actual box office. It's like that one made a bunch of money. The as much as I hate the Rise of Skywalker, that movie also made a bunch of money. And then I think it was Solo was like the last major theatrical release, and they haven't made one since. They got scared away to television, and then they made a bunch of television shows.
See,
One of them people liked.
For me, when it comes to Star Wars, as I've gotten older, I find the movies and the shows by extension kind of don't do it for me anymore. I like the games. That's what Star Wars is for me nowadays. Like I enjoy there's still something about being a Jedi and kicking the crap out of people, which is enjoyable.
Yeah. I disagree.
But
yeah, that's
yeah.
Solo. Jordan, what's next?
So my last rapid fire. So fun fact. Speaking of the Star Wars trilogy, did you know there was a sequel? There's something that comes after, and it's this, which I guarantee you Jake has not seen. Because I had not even heard of it until I was looking through the Star Wars section and just randomly kind of picked it. And it's called Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation. So it was produced and made at about the same time as that other Lego Star Wars holiday special came out. Yeah, it takes place after the trilogy. The crew have decided they need to go on a vacation after their many adventures, and Finn is struggling with his vacation, and he is visited by Force ghosts, who then have their own little individual stories, like where they tell him about times they went on vacation. So like you have Obi-Wan shows up and tells him about one of his vacations, which wasn't really a vacation, it was when he was on the job. Anakin shows up as a Force ghost because Finn's like, evil never rests, and Anakin shows up and he's like, well, actually, there was a time where evil did rest, and it's a story about Darth Vader and Palpatine are on the beach trying to conquer the beach, and it's this really silly like parody romp, very very silly.
Why is the Lego? Why why does the Lego Star Wars get to be so weird? Like, that's amazing.
I don't know, but it's kind of a delight.
It also sounds delightful, yeah.
Like it's a silly romp, and it's not very long. It's a special, so it's 48 minutes.
Oh, that's pretty good.
So it's not very long, but I didn't realize, and I'd have to go back and see if I could pay attention if I ever watched it again. But one of the characters is played by Weird Al Yankovic.
That's funny.
He plays a character called Vic Vanco, who I must have missed that, but you've got Anthony Daniels is back as C-3PO. You got Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian. D. Bradley Barker as Boba Fett and Wicket.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because he does the clones.
Yeah. And those are the biggest names that I can see. But Trevor Duvall is Emperor Palpatine.
Stormtrooper.
Um, but yeah, no, it's fun. It's a fun little romp where
It's a
you get to see
romp.
some silly situations that would never happen with these characters. Just I think the part which does it for me the most, that tickles me the most, is when it's Darth Vader and Palpatine on the beach, like doing a vacation, and nobody recognizes them. That's the funniest part. Eventually they do, but like at first nobody recognizes them. Like Darth Vader, the most recognizable face you would ever see. Very funny, very silly. But yeah, that's Lego Star Wars Summer Vacation
Speaking of
on,
holidays,
on Disney Plus.
my final rapid fire is a very special holiday special. It's the Star Wars Holiday Special, starring Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher, and Harrison Ford agreed to it for some reason, and it's bad. It's about as bad. Okay, first of all, I'm gonna take a swing. I'm gonna say Jake probably has seen. He's just enough of a nerd. He's got to have seen that Star Wars Holiday Special. Jordan's
I
the only
have.
one who has not seen the Star Wars Holiday Special. Jake, okay, I need you to help to me to describe exactly why it's bad. It's bad. It's really bad.
Well,
Like,
it's okay. It's bad because I mean, it is Star Wars, but it's also not Star Wars. But and this is my own conjecture here. The Lego Star Wars movies get away with not being Star Wars because they're intentionally funny and hammy and being over the top and kind of dumb in a good way. This holiday special, I don't know what they were trying to do.
I don't know. Well, it looks like it was like it's like I don't know because there's so many. Like the beat. There's okay, oh, man.
How long is it? Like 30 minutes?
No, it's over an hour long. And the version of
Wow.
it I watched was missing the Boba Fett cartoon, so I think it's an hour 25 in total. At
So it's
full
like a
length.
movie, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. And it's okay. So the framing device of it is that Chewbacca and Han Solo are trying to get back to Chewie's
To
family for Life Day.
yeah, that
Which
I know.
it doesn't really seem to bear any resemblance to, I think it's meant to be coded as Christmas because the guy eventually shows up with gifts, but it also isn't. So I guess they could air it whenever they wanted to. But it's a celebrity filled.
I don't even think it's so much so they can air it whenever they wanted to. I think they want it to be a nondescript holiday so that they can sell it to more people,
Probably,
basically.
but like yeah, it it it's got a ton of. It seems to have come out after Episode 4, after first Star Trek, but before second Star Trek. Before this is really
Star
popular.
Wars, Justin.
Sorry,
This is Star Wars, not Trek.
Star Wars. Before Star
You're
Wars
missing. You're mixing up your science fiction shows.
before the Star Wars got really popular, which is why they've lugged in a bunch of random at the time famous celebrities. So like at one point one of the sketches is B. Arthur at a Tatooine bar that goes on for I swear 10 minutes. Like she has a prolonged sketch which then turns into a musical number. Oh my god, the musical numbers. They're all bad. Like shout out to my personal favorite, which is one that Carrie Fisher sings at the end where the music is the Star Wars like the da 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 da, but the music she's singing doesn't match the background music that's playing. It doesn't remotely align whatsoever. So you can barely see her because the mix is really bad. Now, to be fair, I was watching a remastered version of it on YouTube. It could be the version of it I was watching. But it was just like nonsense. Nonsense. Oh, there's a really long, extended cooking sequence with a guy who has 4 arms. He's like a Julia Childs impression. I think it's Chewbacca's son doesn't even look like a Wookiee. He looks like a completely different because they clearly couldn't get it. They couldn't get the budget for multiple Wookiee costumes, so Chewie's son doesn't even look like a Wookiee.
I mean, here's what I'll say, Justin. There's a reason they buried this thing and do not want to acknowledge its existence. They won't even put this on Disney Plus.
No, see, that's not true because they knew that there was one thing of value in the holiday special, and that was Boba Fett. First appearance of Boba Fett, who appears in a 3D or a 2D animated short, done by the people who did the Ewok and the Droid show, which is why they look similar. And yeah, and that short, Disney saw enough value in it that short is on Disney Plus. So if you want to see one small segment of the holiday special, that is on Disney Plus. But what's interesting about it is it's clearly Anthony Daniels doesn't know what C-3PO is yet. That's the point where I went, oh, this clearly came out after the first movie because I don't know if you guys remember how in the first Star Wars movie, 3PO was kind of lower and he wasn't quite as like up there and like falsetto like he is in Empire Strikes Back. So he's very low and very subdued and he talks more like this, very soft, very not really up here and really crazy and fanatical. And I was like, oh, he clearly hadn't figured out the character yet. And I thought that was interesting. But yeah, I think it's the worst Star Wars thing I saw this week. But also it's on YouTube, and every Star Wars fan needs to watch it to know what bad Star Wars actually looks like. Because I would,
the Last Jedi is still the worst.
I would qualify that as bad Star Wars. I don't. Okay, we'll do Last Jedi next. I was gonna.
I will. My point being that okay, the Star Wars holiday special is laughably bad.
True.
The Last Jedi is enragingly bad.
I do have a point about the last. I do get it because yes, we'll get there. Jordan, we'll get there. We'll do Last Jedi next because I do have a point to make about that movie where I acknowledge the frustration. I do. We'll get there. It's coming.
So that would we're on to have scenes at this point. So this was my other mainline movie that I chose, and I mean, Master Skywalker, what are we going to do?
Die.
Now, okay, here's my question before we jump into. I mean, what is there to be said about
Revenge of the Sith? For those who don't get the reference,
yeah. Okay, so we had a screening for Revenge of the Sith here in town, and we didn't go.
Oh. Very tempted.
Very tempted.
Very tempted.
Jake, would you, if you had gone to one of these, would you have done a big shout and gotten real like excited with the audience?
Quoted the lines, gone along with the general vibe.
No.
I
can't say that I wouldn't have. Especially if it's like in the moment, I might have because this is one where I know this movie almost word by word. I mean,
I don't know that I would have gotten like loud and shouted it, but there's definitely like moments like even when I'm watching it here, when Anakin's about to kill Dooku, where Palpatine's like, do it. I say that to myself as I'm watching it, right? Like there's certain things I
probably would have gone with do it.
The meme. How could you not the memes?
Execute Order 66. Like there's certain lines where it's like it's built in. I can't help it. It's
you got it.
Oh, okay. Maybe I would have because I probably in the theater, me being the smartass I am, when they're like, "You're on this council, you're not given the rank of master." I've probably been in the corner being like, "That's bullshit, Windu."
I did see a really funny meme that was like, "Yeah, when you just watch the movie, you're like, yeah, man, that's kind of bullshit." And then you go and you watch the Clone Wars shows, and you're like, I get it.
Less bullshit.
Yeah. I get it.
I mean, so, okay. What was fun about this was I watched both the movie and I listened to the audiobook of Revenge of the Sith, which, as an aside, great book. It really it expands on the movie in a lot of really good ways. So like the book expands on why Anakin is upset about why he's not given the rank of master, and that's because he doesn't care about being on the council. He doesn't give a shit about that. He wants access
Right.
to the holocrons and all the archives and stuff to help save Padme, and he doesn't get that, so he's pretty
Right.
pissed about it, right? So there's things like that where it just it takes a 2 hour, two something. Hold on, I can tell you the length. Hour 40-minute movie and turns it into like a 13-hour book.
Wait, Revenge of the Sith
So
is only an hour 40? Really? That movie feels much longer
what
than that.
what this says.
Huh.
Um, but um, I like this movie. Like I always like this
I always
movie.
liked this movie.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's
one of those.
solid.
Like, I'm not one of those people who was like, oh, it was bad and I hated it, but now I've gained a new appreciation. No, no, no. We watched this movie, like, I think 4 times in theaters.
Yeah, well, at least, yeah.
3 or 4 times.
Yeah, something like
Like,
that.
I remember enjoying this movie as a kid, but I was who it was made for.
Yeah,
Same with
pretty much.
Phantom Menace and, like, all those. I grew up with, like, at the correct age. Also, if we're to talk about worst Star Wars movies, um, Attack of the Clones, that movie is up there on my list
Oh,
as
God,
one of the worst Star Wars movies.
that
I
was
was
bad.
always a staunch defender of Attack of the Clones, actually.
Okay,
It-
so
So okay, I'm I can't. That's not my movie. We'll lump that into the Last Jedi as getting into that, but or whichever one Justin has next. But I just I it's really funny. The Revenge of the Sith having had their anniversary so recently, there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that has kind of been discussed. One of the funnier ones that I saw was that popped up on my TikTok was the kid who was the kid in the movie who was like, Master Skywalker, there's too many of them. He was on TikTok and he was like, I only got that role because they came to all of us kids and were like, which one of you knows the line? And I was the first one to put my hand up
yeah,
and be able to say it correctly, which I thought was hilarious.
that is very
I
funny.
That's funny.
So Jake, let me
That's why you want to study, kids.
right. Let me ask you, how do you feel about this internet tendency to historical revisionism when it comes to the prequels and Marvel movies generally, like where people are pretending like stuff like Red Letter Media and Mr. Plinkett and the People versus George Lucas and how everyone hated those movies and everyone wants to be like, no, we didn't hate those movies actually. It's like, no, we did. Like, I went through a period of my life where I did not like the Phantom Menace because people on the internet convinced me that I should not like the Phantom Menace. But I love the
even
Phantom
though
Menace.
even though I did love the Phantom Menace as a kid, I dressed up as Darth Maul. I like was ecstatic about that movie
Like,
as a kid.
See, I guess my whole it depends on who you ask because I agree with you. I think there are a lot of people who have a revisionist view of that movie or those movies being the prequels. That being said, though, there are elements where I can understand how because I was like this. I went to the midnight premiere of the Phantom Menace, and there was a lot of stuff I liked about that movie. I think the pod race was unnecessary and way too long.
Yeah.
But I remember leaving the theater and being kind of like, did I like it? I didn't hate it, but I don't know that I loved it. Like there were elements that I really dug, but I don't know that it didn't feel the same to me.
Interesting.
It didn't feel the same way Star Wars did. Now, that being said, even if there are elements in those movies that don't feel like Star Wars to you, there are things in each of those movies that make up for it. In Phantom Menace, you get Darth Maul.
Yeah.
He more than makes up for the moments that feel a little less Star Wars. In Attack of the Clones, you get the fan service that we've all been waiting for and watching Yoda wield a lightsaber.
Yep.
So
I agree.
that in and of itself, and plus you get the moment that parallels Luke losing his hand when Anakin gets his arm cut off and all that jazz. And Christopher Lee is awesome in everything he does. So even though he took a character that very easily could have kind of faded into the background and been like, no, this dude is center stage.
Yep.
And then honestly, the Revenge of the Sith is a generally good movie.
I don't
But
disagree.
even if you have elements in that movie that you dislike, you get two really awesome lightsaber duels,
Yeah.
and then you get like the lightsaber duel of all lightsaber duels. So you get a very Star Wars thing at the end, and you leave on a you leave on a low note, but for Star Wars fandom, it's a high note because you just witnessed probably what is still to this day the best lightsaber duel ever choreographed.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, the Acolyte, for however much people hate that show, that has some sick lightsaber fights.
I mean, yeah, the Acolyte also you get to see the lightsaber bleed and turn red for the first time, which is cool. That's a
Right.
cool scene.
Yeah.
Even if you just look at it like independently from the rest of the show, it's just a cool scene.
Right.
But in terms of episode 3, um, the I will say, and this was a complaint that I've seen people say in the past, and having listened to the book, I get it. Um, it this movie is rushed at times. Like there's definitely a pacing issue. I see that argument and I don't disagree with it. I just don't know in terms of a movie. I don't know how you could have done it better without it being bloated.
I mean, it's an hour 40. That's now that I know that, I would say this movie should be 20 to 30 minutes longer.
Yeah,
You could have easily added 20 to 30 minutes,
Yeah.
and I don't think it would have hurt it.
No.
yeah,
A
that's true.
solid
Well,
2:15
to be fair,
benefit it.
then this is where maybe it would have been interesting if they could have done it like however many years ago, like a extended edition, because there's a bunch of deleted scenes which are in the book.
Yeah.
That's what's funny is like those scenes. I watched through a couple of them. Like there's the one where the gathering of the 2000 Amidala and them go to Palpatine and are like, dude, you're becoming a dictator. Like you need to tell us that you're going to give the power back and yada yada yada. That's a scene that's deleted from the movie, but it's very much in the book. So yeah, for me, if anyone wanted Revenge of the Sith the way that I think it was kind of envisioned, I would say read/listen to that book because it's really good. And as an aside, that version of the character, the version that's in that book, I fully believe that the one for the character in the Clone Wars show could turn into that Anakin.
Yeah.
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 That's kind of my final thought on Revenge of the Sith.
All right. So, The Last
Good
Jedi.
movie.
The Last Jedi. We'll do Rogue One second. Okay, so I have two streams of thought. Bear with me. So, okay, number one. There are elements of that movie that I don't dislike. I don't hate the notion of the grizzled mentor character as far as Luke is concerned. There are certain action sequences that are pretty fun. I discovered Star Wars needs levity, and it has that. Okay, here's the rest. The rest is this movie does take an active dump and shit on the previous movie in kind of a astonishing way, where it goes, hey, you know all the shit that we set up in the previous movie? What if I dropped Trow and just took a massive diarrhea all over it, and then as I was doing the massive diarrhea all over it, I looked at you and I went, this is your fault. You're the reason I'm doing this. You're the reason. You're bad. You're bad for liking this.
Learn the lesson.
Learn the lesson of me taking a shit on the previous movie. That's what that movie is. That's pretty much what that movie is. And it's emblematic of everything that's wrong with modern Star Wars, where it requires you to have read previous shit in order to understand a relationship that's established for the movie to function. You're like, oh, you're supposed to just inherently trust the stupid purple-haired chick.
The purple-haired chick,
which you only know that they're friends based upon a book that you were supposed to read. It's fucking stupid. It's everything that's wrong with modern Star Wars.
So to touch on the Luke being a grizzled defeated mentor role, I kind of came to this realization. The reason why that doesn't work for me in these movies is because we never got to see
That's
Luke at the height of his
that's
Jedi, like
point
of being.
that's point two for me. Is this feels like a sequel to a series of movies we never saw. So this feels like the end point of a character arc that Luke never got to have, and I think that's why people hate it so much. I think it's the ending of a story we never got to see, and it's made
Yeah.
all the more worse by having Luke be like having Luke be like, "What did you think was gonna happen?" Like I think by having him come in with that tone of
Smug,
voice,
arrogant, and smug.
like he throws the lightsaber over his shoulder. Like maybe if there was some sort of reverence put to this, and he was like more defeated. I again the concept of him.
That's it. Yeah, that's it. Because it's that movie is Ryan Johnson for whatever reason, basically saying like Star Wars is actually lame. Here's a much more introspective and nerdy look. And by the way, animal rights, man. Which fair enough, but in fucking Star Wars?
Here's the thing though.
So
Right?
so here's so real quick. I think if they had made Luke in this movie more like what they made Obi-Wan, like in the Obi-Wan Kenobi show, where he's broken, he's defeated, he's tired, he just feels like defeated. If they made him more like that, then I think he would have worked better.
It's the attitude. It's the having Luke. It's not even that it's Luke. It's having Mark Hamill look into the camera and be like, "Star Wars is stupid, and you're stupid for liking Star Wars. I'm Luke Skywalker, and I'm saying this to you." Yeah,
If it had been if it had been a moment where Ray hands him the lightsaber, and I would have even been okay with him dropping it in front of him.
yeah.
Or being like I can't and giving it back to her. Actually, the drop probably would make more sense, but it's the
Yeah, it's
of it all.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
No, what I would have done,
He
or
thinks
what
it's
I
funny.
I would have had it be, where like he was standing like at a table or something, and he looks at it for a second, and then just very solemnly puts it on the table and walks away.
Right?
That's more
Yeah.
respectful. That's like it's the tossing it over the shoulder, like I don't give a fuck. Like
So there's that, and there's a narrative problem with it because in the same fucking movie, when Luke spends the whole movie being like, the Jedi need to die. It all needs to die. It all needs to burn. And then when he's burning it, he's like, wait, I gotta save the texts.
Right?
And it's like,
dumb.
make up your mind. Like make up your
It's like-
mind.
and that's just it. It's not even a problem with Luke. It's an issue with the script because the script ignores. Not only does it ignore or write out shit on Star Wars things, it ignores and shits on things that they establish in the same script.
But and here,
Like that.
Here's my thing, and like I've always maintained, it's not the subversive ideas or the "this isn't Star Wars" shit in that script that people don't like. And the reason why I can say that is because they took all of that shit, the Canto Blight, the aristocrats in the Star Wars universe are weird Hunger Games-esque freaks who dress weird and are they took all that shit and they put it into Andor, and people fucking love Andor. So
Right.
that's
It's not
The
that.
diversion. It's the diversion to the plot.
Yeah.
Is we're which it's a stupid plot to begin with. Like the whole thing is just dumb. People who should be able to think logically do things that no sane person would do. Like, I mean, where do I begin? Holdo's plan is to not tell anyone the plan
right. Well,
until
okay.
the very last minute.
My-
and
my-
if you're gonna do the Holdo maneuver, why did you wait?
Well-
Why it's just fucking stupid.
To be fair,
It's just fucking
to be
stupid.
fair, her plan was that the First Order. Oh my God, they're all the same. The First Order wasn't tracking the escape pods. It was only tracking the big ship. The only reason why it started tracking the escape pods was because Benicio del Toro ratted them out. So the idea was that they were going to escape, and the reason why she didn't tell Oscar Isaac is because he was a low-ranking guy and she had no reason to. That was kind of the
He was
idea.
a captain.
Right, but the idea was he had been demoted to from admiral
That's
to
right,
captain,
yeah.
and she was like, I essentially was like, you fucked everything up. I have no reason to communicate to you. Why would I? So
Well,
like in
but
terms of
here's my thing though. He didn't.
well, I mean, as far as her superior, which is Leia, is concerned, he was put in charge and he was demoted. So like, and within the context of it being a military structure, I did understand why she might not necessarily communicate to him, but there does hit a point where he's a problem. She
But
should.
see,
That I will
see
say.
the thing for me is it's not even so much that she wants to withhold stuff from Poe that's the problem. Who is she? Like as an audience member, who
That's
is
just
she?
it.
Put another character in there. Have like a Lando Calrissian, or have a
That
another
would have been
another
better.
person that's there that we as the audience know who they are and know we can trust them and know they're not doing something like
Instead, it's just making Laura Dern look stupid,
Right.
which
yeah.
is really hard to do. But
Also,
and
sorry.
oh no, it's just there's so many things. Like the fact I get in universe Poe gets demoted because he disobeyed a direct order, but he was right because I understand his logic. We're not going to get this chance again, and his job as a squad leader is to make calls on the fly, and he did, and he succeeded. That's the same sort of behavior that got Luke Skywalker and Han Solo promoted within the rebellion.
Fair point.
Those are things
Fair
that
point.
are good, and Leia knows that, and for Leia to demote him is something that Leia would not do. Leia would have promoted him, if anything.
Fair point. I
So
mean,
and see that's where and this is an interesting thing. In one of my later things that I'm going to be talking about, another character disobeys orders as well, and the ends up in front of the senators and stuff. And the point that they bring up in that show, which they don't in this movie, but it's obviously a thing that the behind the scenes people have retroactively thought about and are using, is this is no longer the rebellion. You can't just do what you want. There are consequences and laws, and there's fallout to your decisions, kind of scenario, kind of thing, right? So if they had done something like a line like that in this movie, it might have been less like aggravating if they had been like, "This is no longer the rebellion. You can't just do what you want anymore. There's repercussions to your actions, and this is the repercussion. Fuck off!" Like, if they had
Yeah.
done something like that, then it might have been more better. But
Well, but then the other giant problem with the sequel trilogy as a whole is the fact that okay, the First Order is technically a rebellion,
they are. Yeah. Yeah. It's
and
not. They're
yeah,
not.
the Resistance. That's so stupid. You're not the Resistance if you're the government,
Yeah.
and
Exactly. Yeah.
and the government theoretically has an army and a space navy, but apparently they don't because apparently after the Empire fell, everybody became stupid
Well,
and
but
was like, "Oh,
also,
this will never happen
I
again."
I think in the first one, the what was it? Whatever, the first one of the new trilogy. I think when they used their Death Star 17, the ultimate Death Star, and blew up the 5 Republic planets. I think the
Mhm.
idea is supposed to be that they destroyed like most of the Republic like in one go.
But they were the Resistance before that happened. It says it in the crawl.
yeah,
Fair.
they were the ones they're the insurgency
and
basically.
and I can there's another so the other thing that the Force Awakens does, not the Force Awakens,
That's
I'm
right.
sorry, Rise of Skywalker does is okay, the whole space radio signal and then everybody shows up to Leroy Jenkins this bitch, but everybody shows up and it's like why why didn't you just fucking do that before?
Because that movie is dumb.
But that's why it's dumb. And don't even get me started with the secret fleet of Star Destroyers that's been there for theoretically at least 20
I mean,
years.
somehow Palpatine has returned.
I am all of the Jedi.
I have less of an issue with that and more of an issue with, okay, that's got to be at least a few hundred Star Destroyers. And I got to assume that a Star Destroyer is roundabout similar to the size, maybe smaller, but similar to the size of the USS Enterprise. And that has a crew of 400 people. So let's think conservatively here. Let's say a Star Destroyer has a crew of 100. There's probably more, but let's say there's 100 people on your average Star Destroyer just to make the thing function. If you've got that's a lot of people that you have to pay and feed for 20 years to just sit in a planet's atmosphere and do nothing. Just wait for
Fair point.
something.
Fair point. That's a fair point.
So just for fun, I looked it up. Imperial class Star Destroyers, like those seen in the original Star Wars trilogy, are crewed by approximately 37,000 personnel.
That seems extremely high.
Including, I'm just reading what Google says, including officers and enlisted crew plus a stormtrooper complement of 9,700. A lot is what this is saying.
Okay, so clearly they're much bigger than the USS Enterprise. But
to be fair, there's like 3 different versions of the Imperial Star Destroyer, like different classes. So some of them are bigger than others.
But yeah, my big thing with that sequel trilogy,
it just proves my point more.
Absolutely. Absolutely it does.
That movie needed a main character. Those movies need a main character. None of the characters get enough time to be interesting or develop any depth because there's no main character. They're just ideas of characters. They're not actual characters. Like, what is Rey's character arc throughout those movies? She doesn't have one. What is Poe's character arc? What is Finn's character arc? Finn is the only one who really gets a character arc, and then like his character arc gets shattered because his whole thing in the first one is he's a coward, and then he's back in this one kind of being a coward again. Like it doesn't, it's so incoherent
until he falls in love with Rose Tico, and then he gets his balls.
And then poor Rose Tico gets bullied out of the next movie. Felt bad.
And wait! Remember the moment where they have like a cavalry of those animals on a Star Destroyer, and I'm like, where the fuck did they come from? We're in the atmosphere of a planet. Why are you? That's oh my god! Why would you jump? Why would you jump onto the outside of a ship to attack it?
And it's funny because in the next one, yeah, they clearly. They tried to write out Rose and then give him another love interest who's a or they were trying to set up seeds for another love interest with another black stormtrooper girl, which was funny.
I heard that they're making a new thing which has Finn the stormtrooper.
Yeah, they're supposedly making a new. Well, they're at one point they were making a new Rey movie where she was going to be old woman Rey. She was going to be in charge of the Jedi Temple now, and supposedly it was going to bring back Poe.
The only way they can save Star Wars, and this is a maybe, the beginning of the next movie, and they need to do it fast because Mark Hamill's not exactly young. They need to have Mark Hamill wake up. Like, you get kind of like a montage of what happened in the trilogy to remind you of how bad it was. And then it just cuts to Mark Hamill going, and he's in his fucking Jedi robes and
I think you could do him with old Mark Hamill, where he's old. He wakes up, goes, and he turns to his equally decrepit wife, and he's like, "Honey, I had the worst nightmare." Thanks, young Luke Skywalker.
She just looks at him and goes, "Was it the sequel trilogy again?"
Was it the Last Jedi nightmare again? It was. Come here, young Luke Jr.
This would be a wonderful little jab if, like, legit. I like that idea. He turns to Mara Jade, his wife, and she just looks at him and goes, "Are you the Last Jedi again?"
Yeah.
And then she's like, "Well, this will make you feel better." And then they go out into the hall and see like there are hundreds of students just bunking.
What's funny is this absolutely feels like something they would do in one of the Lego ones, like where they poke fun.
For sure.
Like, absolutely, it feels like one they would do. But No, controversial opinion. I think Rey is boring, and I think the
She
the
is
sequel
boring.
trilogy. I think the sequel trilogy would have been far more interesting if we had followed a stormtrooper who started off dark and
Yeah.
like a stormtrooper, and slowly kind of became a I wouldn't even say a Jedi, but something in between.
Well, I just it was
Yeah.
And
that was so
then and
frustrating.
that was like the
The
overarching
trailer.
point.
Yeah,
Sorry, go
the
ahead.
trailer, the initial trailer for The Force Awakens makes you think that's what's going to
His
happen
the
because the
Yeah,
first
poster.
shot you see is Finn, and then the trailer ends with Finn igniting the lightsaber.
Yeah, no, the first
So
yeah,
that's what you
poster
think
is
is going to happen.
the first poster. He's
and
got the
like
lightsaber in his hands. All over
because
the
like
marketing.
it would have been a really nice button hook if like by the end of the trilogy the point was that the quote unquote Jedi were dead, like the Jedi as we knew them were dead, and he's now a new generation, and like it's a callback to Luke, and like there's
Yeah, no,
it
Finn should
had
have been the Jedi.
it had potential.
Yeah, no,
That's my thing with the and I really, yeah, it had potential, and they
a
just
stormtrooper that becomes a Jedi. Come on, you tell me that doesn't sound interesting? Then yeah, it's just some random girl from a junk planet. It was like even if it was a boy, it'd be like, oh my god, we did random characters
it's
from
not,
junk
yeah.
planet.
I want to be clear here. It for me, it has nothing to do with the fact that she's a woman. It's just
Nothing.
she's just a boring
She's just a
character.
boring
She's a boring
character.
character who like they set her, and this is where I don't mind the first one in the trilogy because it sets up a bunch of cool, potentially cool plot threads that could have been okay, but then the next guy comes in and shits all over it,
Diarrhea's
and then
all over it.
it's just a train wreck from that point on.
Like
But
I used to be like, no, he does, but he
oh,
really does. He really does in his script actively diarrhea all over the previous movie. Like it reads that way. It's like it's and he has Luke Skywalker doing it, and I think that's why people got so insulted by it. Yeah, it's
and then yeah, well,
bad,
yeah, because
bad,
like in the
bad.
first one. In the first one, they spend all this time. They're hunting for Luke. They've set it up. Like you're really excited. You're gonna get to see it's the Luke that we all know, and it's gonna be Luke, and he's gonna be like cool. And it's been all this time since the original, and then he's not Luke. That's ultimately my problem
It's not even that he's
with what
not
they do with
Luke.
him. No, no,
It's
he's not. He's not
it's
Luke.
that
He's some other character.
it's that he looks into the camera and like tells you all the reasons why Star Wars is stupid. I think that's for me the part of it where I'm like, I get it
Yeah,
now.
which is not Luke.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the version of Luke, it can be Luke.
Yeah, no, it
No, it's
doesn't.
not. It's not Luke.
Like
It's not Luke.
if you go deep into that Star Wars Legends, whatever, I'm sure there's like a Star Wars book somewhere where Luke is like, the Jedi are bad.
Well, I mean, there's stuff in the legends where he falls to the dark side. So absolutely, there's stuff where he's like gritty and he's dark and he's not the hopeful Luke necessarily. But even in those books, I haven't obviously read every single book, but even in those books, I have to imagine he still feels like Luke.
Yeah.
In
I just
this, he doesn't feel like Luke. He feels like some other interpretation, but he doesn't feel like Luke. Not to
yeah.
me anyway.
The whole trilogy kind of feels like a really bad fan fiction.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like for me, you could tell, like, especially when it's one guy. I didn't know he wrote this by himself. That's the thing. Like, I didn't realize he wrote it, but it's completely just
Well,
written by him. So, like,
And nobody with any pull pulled him aside and said, "Ryan, this kind of sucks."
the one that the moment that made me go oh, I fucking hate this was when everything involving Snoke. It just
Right?
it
Yeah.
just feels like, oh, you were expecting a cool twist, a clever twist.
He was nothing. He's just a
He's
Palpatine, like.
nothing. He's nothing. He's nobody. Like, or
And the fact that it all eventually inevitably becomes because of Palpatine yet again, and it's like eye roll. Like, are you
but
fucking kidding me?
for me, it's when he's like, "Oh, why are you wearing that stupid mask? Take off the stupid mask." And it's like, "But you're the reason he's wearing the stupid mask." What do you mean, take off the stupid mask? Because it's clearly Ryan Johnson being like, "Darth Vader is stupid." masks are stupid, and it's like, oh, you're trying to say something, and it's making you come across as petty, and it's like, yeah, no, that's those it's moments like that
My
where I'm
thing,
like,
yeah,
ugh,
my thing is like
awful.
you clearly hate Star Wars. Why are you working on this?
It's the same reason they gave Mindy Kaling Scooby Doo.
Because you clearly hate
Because I don't
Scooby
know,
Doo.
you clearly hate it. I don't know why they gave it to you, but
Are are you okay, Velma? Velma, are you okay?
I miss asking Velma if she was okay. She was never okay. Are you
well,
okay,
see, what's
Velma?
funny, what's funny to kind of touch on that. There's another show that I discovered by accident, but I actually ended up liking it for the most part. It's a pretty good show. It's on Max, The Sex Lives of College Girls. It's not what you think it is. It's a very funny show. However, Mindy Kaling is one of the writers on the show, and it's very obvious because once again she has herself a self-insert
Of
character,
course.
Of
and
course.
this girl is like at times she's one of the better, funnier characters that you're kind of rooting for. But towards it's really season 3 where she really goes downhill. But oh well, no, that's not true. I'd say towards the ends of season 2 she really goes downhill, and then it just gets worse in season 3. But there are even moments in season 1 where you're like, wow, she's kind of a terrible person, and you're having her say and do things to be funny, and it's like, no, that's actually reprehensible, and it's not as funny as you think it is.
It reminds
Eh,
me of
I didn't even like her in The Office, if I'm being honest. Like I thought her character in The Office is unpleasant as well.
the way you describe it reminds me a lot of I share similar opinions of Tina Fey's writing, where like
Yeah, that's true.
she writes female characters so unrealistically stupid, where they're so stupid that no human being would ever react to this. I couldn't get into the Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt because every character on that show was unrealistically stupid. And yeah, the way she writes women just bothers me. I'm like, women aren't this dumb.
Well, the show is yeah, the show is honestly saved because if it was just the character's name is Bella. If this were just Bella, it would be an awful show. And don't get me wrong, Bella has moments that are really really good. But the other three characters really save it because those three characters are written as like normal human beings where yeah, sometimes they do bad things, but they never intend them to be bad, and
interesting.
they have to deal with the consequences of their actions, and they do so in ways that normal thoughtful people would do, and they grow because of it. And Bella doesn't, I mean, I guess she changes but not a lot. She comes across as very stunted, but that's not what they're going for, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. I wonder if that's on anything here because that sounds interesting. I have to check it out.
Probably. It's genuinely funny. It's actually Timothy Chalamet's sister plays one of the roles, and it was so funny
Random.
because I'm watching the show. And I'm like, I know I've never seen her before, but God, she looks familiar. And then I read her name. I'm like, oh, that's because I see the Chalamet.
See the Chalamet of it all.
I see that Chalamet.
Chalamet. Um, uh, that's it. That's it for the Last Jedi for me. That's it. That's it. Yeah, no, I disliked it more this time. I don't know if I'm in.
Oh, you watched it again?
Oh yeah,
Oh,
oh
you
yeah.
poor soul.
We gotta watch everything for the show.
We
Oh, you
everything
poor,
we're
poor
talking about,
soul.
we had to watch.
Yeah,
Oof.
I look, I, it's not my least favorite Star Wars movie. I think that's always probably gonna be, uh, Attack of the Clones. But I will say it is 15 minutes too long. It's 15 minutes too long, and it is an entire Canto Blight too long. Like you could cut that scene out and it wouldn't affect that movie whatsoever. Anyway,
So my last have seen was I rewatched the miniseries Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Okay, has Jake seen it? I'm gonna guess not in its entirety.
I have seen clips.
Clips,
I would have
but
guessed
not in
like
its entirety.
I would have
I
guessed.
heard it was horrendous.
See, I would have guessed maybe the first episode just out of curiosity.
No, I'm trying to remember what came out first. Did Ahsoka come out first?
No, Ahsoka came after him,
No,
I
I
think.
believe this one came first. This was
Okay.
May
There was
27th to
because
22nd.
Ahsoka. I remember I watched the first 1 or 2 episodes of Ahsoka for Toon Talk, and I remember telling Virus, I said, "That's it. I'm done. I'm done with Star Wars."
I
This because this is like this is not to your point, right? I just so happen to know who Ezra is
Mm,
because I've not watched Rebels, but I know who he is.
right.
Um, but to your point, that show only really works for you if you know what happened in Rebels, because otherwise you're like, who the fuck is Ezra?
Oh,
What are they talking about?
we're
Doesn't
gonna
why does
talk.
Ahsoka? How does Ahsoka know this bitch? Like
We're
who's
we're gonna we're gonna deep dive into that
yeah,
because that's one of my
and
future ones.
it's like oh, lightsabers don't kill people when they stab you in the heart anymore. That's new.
Um, but Obi-Wan Kenobi. So, what's interesting about this one, or maybe not surprising, it was originally supposed to be a movie,
yeah, I know that.
which they reworked it into a show
Hmm.
after the commercial failure
I
that was
believe it
Solo.
was gonna, yeah, it was gonna be a movie that came out after Solo. Yeah, then Solo did badly, and this sat on the shelf for a while until they managed to get Ian McGregor back, and then yeah, that's kind of when it all fell together.
And
And
so,
Hayden Christensen.
uh, okay, where do I begin with this one? Um,
I would say your tolerance of this is the point for me where like the internet's reaction to this was really funny because this was the point where everyone's line for continuity kind of became violated, where they're like, it doesn't make any sense. How is it that he knows Princess Leia as a child, but yet it's the first time they've met as adults? How is it
I don't
that
think I don't think that sorry to interrupt you. From what I remember, I don't think he ever actually meets Leia as an adult.
no, but she has met him as a child, and in that movie she acts as though they've never met.
Um,
Right.
right, but I mean there's also that's not to me where the
They explained it in the show. They have
yeah
her.
that that
They
that to me wasn't where the logic of the line was drawn at the time. For me, the logic of line was drawn when he leaves the planet. The Empire knows he's alive. Vader knows he's alive, and then at the end, Palpatine is kind of just like, just just let it go. Like just let it go.
yeah.
He's one guy. Just let it go. We know he's there,
But
but
there is some
whatever.
truly. If you like Darth Vader shit, there is some truly
Oh
sick
yeah,
Darth Vader shit in that show.
and so when I watched this the first time, what I had to do, and the reason why I can enjoy it, and this is sometimes I do this with Star Wars stuff where I've it's to me this is another Elseworld story where I watch it independently of the rest of the series as its own thing.
Yeah, you
So
kind of
like
have to.
I don't need it to necessarily line up because this is just a world where this is what happened,
Yeah.
right? Like it didn't happen this way in the original timeline, but in this timeline it did, and once I kind of do that, it becomes fun. But that's largely because you got Hayden Christensen back as Anakin. It's because you've got uh uh Mr. McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I like him as Obi-Wan
Yeah,
Kenobi.
yeah.
Like
He's really
to
good.
me, he elevates this to a major degree, and as Obi-Wan, he can do no wrong in my eyes. Now that being said, if I had had it my way, um, there's a book which is now a legend story, but there's a book which it's called Kenobi, and it's supposed to take place like a very short amount of time. Obi-Wan has just gotten on the planet and is looking after Luke and all that, and it's like right at the beginning of of his tenure on Tatooine, and he has to. The point of the story is he's learning how to put Obi-Wan Kenobi to rest and stop being him. So he keeps finding himself getting caught up in the comings and goings of this shop, near where he lives, and keep getting wrapped up in the trouble there, and he kind of has to learn how to stop doing that. And there's a bunch of different characters, but the point is in that story, he doesn't leave Tatooine and he doesn't meet Darth Vader.
Yeah, there's
Like,
another one where it's a comic book where it's basically Seven Samurai where he protects a village on Tatooine, but with Obi-Wan Kenobi and lightsabers. And it's like, yeah, that should have been the show. That sounds sick. That
and
sounds
so
awesome.
to me, the better version of this show would have been that, and like maybe you cut to Darth Vader, and it's about his early days being Darth Vader and learning to be the suit of Darth Vader, but they never meet. They
Yeah.
never come together. There's no fight between them. Now that being said, talking about what we did get, some of those scenes are really cool.
Some of the
Like,
fight scenes are pretty cool.
I,
There's
I,
really cool like it's modern Star Wars has really done a good job of allowing Darth Vader to be mobile. So like, there's a really cool sequence of him like running, like he runs out and he like uses the Force to like capture it. I think it's a TIE fighter or something, and he pulls it back.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a spaceship, and it's like this massive spaceship, and yeah, you get to see him like toss guys around, and there's a sequence like modern Star
There's
Wars is desire to make Darth Vader into like almost a horror character. Like, yeah, there's that scene where he's terrorizing a village, which is really cool.
Oh, I mean, the spoilers, but the one of the first scenes where he runs into Obi-Wan and he lights this large patch of ground on fire, and then uses the Force to like rub him through the fire, Obi-Wan through the fire, almost as if he's like, "You left me to burn. Fuck you. This is how fire feels, asshole."
Who has the high
Like
ground? Yeah, he's like, who has the high ground now, bitch?
like there's something entertaining about that. And then there's another scene in the last episode where Obi-Wan has kind of rediscovered his Obi-Wan-ness, and he goes to fight Darth Vader, and he cuts off half of Darth Vader's mask, so you see the face, and Darth Vader is doing the kind of breathing, right? And Obi-Wan is like, "Anakin, I'm so sorry," and Vader is like, you didn't kill Anakin. I'm not your failure, Obi-Wan. You didn't kill Anakin. I did." And it's like this really, I don't want to say touching moment, but touching, for lack of a better word. I
Yeah,
don't know the right
that
word.
was their attempt to explain. Wait, so when they see each other in Episode 4, and Darth Vader's like, "You killed my apprentice." This is like an explanation. Oh, Darth Vader is a separate person from Anakin. He's not the real. He's not. They're not the same guy. That's supposed to explain that.
But see,
Yeah.
going back to the Revenge of the Sith book, that's one thing that I like about that book is like right at the end, near the end anyway, when it's an internal monologue for Vader. Vader, it's like this is what it feels like to be Anakin Skywalker in this moment. It's realizing that the perception that you created of Darth, I'm paraphrasing, of course, but like the perception that you created, this alternate identity of Vader doesn't exist, and it's just you. You did all those things. It was you all along. And I was like, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that they like, no, there is no Vader, there's no alternate it's not a split personality. It's just Anakin and all the horrible decisions that he made along the way.
But
But
yeah, if you can
but
get
yeah,
through the continuity issues, and you can like shut off your brain a little bit, it's not a bad Star Wars thing.
there's things in it to
I
like.
did think, yeah, there was things that if you really like Ian McGregor as Obi-Wan Kenobi, it's pretty fun. It's a pretty fun show.
And
And
it very much is like
Darth
if you
Vader's
ever
always
wanted
fun.
to see if you ever wanted to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi who was kind of getting over PTSD, that's kind of what this show is. It's him getting over the PTSD of Order 66 and Anakin and all that. So
it's
yeah,
also
I watch it as if it's an Elseworld story.
I believe because Rogue One and Andor really do this. It also really leans into the idea of the Jedi being like a marginalized group almost. Like it's the first time it's like they're kind of a metaphor for the Jew. Because there's a lot of
I mean, I didn't really get that in this,
Yeah, I didn't get
but
I didn't get Judice.
there's a lot of like imagery that Empire imagery that's I would describe as being quite a bit more Nazi like, and they refer to like
Well, sure, because they're big fascist, but
yeah. Well, in Last Jedi, I guess maybe Last Jedi was sort of the start of like reorienting the Jedi. Well, I guess maybe arguably okay, we'll do it. Rogue One did as the Jedi as a religion, as opposed to attaching it to the science fiction midi-chlorian stuff. Like Rogue One really leans away from the midi-chlorian of it all.
I mean, I won't. What I will say is, I don't so much see that in this, but I'm gonna apparently keep going back to the book. The Revenge of the Sith book, very much Palpatine at a certain point is like, when he's conning Anakin and getting him to fall, he's like, the Sith is really just, if the Jedi is one religion, the Sith is just another interpretation of the same thing.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
what
they kind of lean more into that.
The whatchamacallit, the Acolyte did that, where they had the Force. Everyone made fun of the Force Ghost witches, but that's kind of what they were. That was just their interpretation of the Force. Was it manifested as Force lesbian witches? We don't have time to explain that.
I mean, yeah, that's a whole thing.
That's a whole thing.
But that's Obi-Wan Kenobi.
So okay, so Rogue One, yeah, Rogue One to me was the moment. I watched Rogue One, but that was the moment where you got the Asian guy who's like, "I'm the one with the Force, and the Force is one with me," and
I'm one with the Force is with me. I'm one with the Force.
And the notion that the Jedi is more of a religious order than it is, that they're more spiritual. I think that sort of originates here. I really like this movie. I really enjoyed it. It's funny because when I was watching Andor, it kind of, not to jump ahead to Andor, but that made me think I didn't like this movie, and because there was just something missing from Andor, and I was like, it's missing the robot, it's missing levity, it's missing humor, it's missing
missing likable characters.
No, because there's likable characters in that show, but it's missing levity, it's missing humor, it's missing the droid, the Alan Tudyk droid, who is
the sarcasm.
Who is what's his face's sidekick, like Andor's sidekick. Like it's missing that kind of humor where it's got like a little, like it's that movie's still dark and that movie's still dire and that movie is still upsetting and every main character in that movie still dies tragically, but it still manages to feel like Star Wars. Like it still feels like Star Wars, even though it's not Star Wars. And I love how the rebellion aren't good. Like they're not good guys.
It's nuanced. It's shades of gray. Yeah. It's also that movie's also funny because they send Leia the plans, and then 5 seconds later she's captured by, like, in terms of the chronologicalness of it. 5 seconds later she's captured by Darth Vader and proceeds to be like, "I don't know what you're talking about, man. I don't have any plans," even though it literally just happened. Like it makes it all so funny in retrospect.
Gareth Edwards is, Jake, as a Godzilla fan, he directed the Godzilla 2014 Godzilla movie. He is really good at scale, like the scale of everything. I remember
one of the scenes when they're down on the beach or whatever, and they've got the gigantic walker coming towards them, and it's like, yeah, that would be terrifying.
I think someone said like Rogue One is probably the best Star Wars movie, and I think it probably is technically the best Star Wars movie. I'm talking purely not story-wise, acting-wise, I'm talking just on a technical level. I think it has some of the best cinematography, if not the best cinematography in that franchise.
It does look really good.
It looks
like it's a good-looking movie.
It's just like, I love the notion that the Death Star is effectively like the Star Wars equivalent to a nuclear bomb. Like that's how it reads on screen, is it's basically a nuclear weapon. I think that's really neat. Yeah, that sequence on the beach where you see the AT-ATs from the ground and they look massive and scary. easily probably my favorite Darth Vader scene at the end.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah,
phenomenal.
with the terrifying, yeah,
I
and
think
how
It frames the beginning of A New Hope complete, like, it's a totally different perspective now.
completely different
Right?
perspective, right?
Because those guys that are holding it down in the hallway just saw what happened to
Right?
the other dudes.
Right? Right?
So,
My one criticism of the movie is I think Darth Vader's maybe in it too much. I think that sequence, that scene on I think it's on Mustafar, where he does a big one-liner where he's like, "Careful, Officer Krennic, you don't want to choke on your ambitions." Ha ha ha! And he does a Marvel joke.
See, I get what you're saying, but I think
that scene.
I don't agree because much how you said that Andor doesn't have enough levity. That scene adds levity.
Yeah, but I don't.
It adds a little bit of lightness.
I don't think you need that from Darth Vader. I think in order for that scene to make that scene at the end more effective, and to be fair, it's a light criticism, but to make it more effective, I think you cut both of the additional scenes of Darth Vader, and just the first time you see Darth Vader, it's just that red lightsaber. That scene would have been way. Imagine you're not expecting him to show up at all, and then just at the end, just the first time you see him is just the mask with the red lightsaber going up. It would have been way scarier. It would have been like, holy shit, it's Darth. And then you only see him from the perspective of the rebels. Because those two scenes, you see him from the perspective of the Empire. And he seems a little bit more docile, a little bit more subdued almost. And I just think it would have been more effective just to purely see him from the rebels' perspective. Because you think about him from the rebels' perspective, he is Bomb made in human form. He can throw people. I mean, the way Ray describes the Force, it lets you throw things, but that's from these guys' perspective, that's all they see. They see this monster that can toss you with just a flick of his wrist and has a laser sword that can slice you in half like your cheese. That would be scary. And I just think that final scene would have been just a hair more effective if you didn't see him for the rest of the movie. But otherwise, it also suffers from the it wants to have a bunch of clearly spin-offs of these characters where you watch another show or you watch another movie or you watch
except the part where they all die.
Except for where they all die. Yeah, and it's also too dark. It suffers from a lot of modern Star Wars. Again, it has that weird sepia tone, Zack Snyder looking. It all looks dark.
That's where I say somewhere along the way, I think Star Wars forgot what Star Wars is.
I think so. Also, Saw Gerrera is kind of a fun character. I think I didn't realize that you guys are probably going to be like, yeah, duh. I didn't realize that the rebels were a bunch of desperate groups that were all combined together. After I thought about it, I was like,
Justin.
Rebel Alliance.
Rebel Alliance.
Yeah, no, never occurred to me. I always thought of them as one group. I didn't realize that they were a bunch of splinter groups that combined into one group, and some of them approach the rebellion. So, Saw Gerrera, he's militant.
They're extremist.
They're extremist militant. Yeah. And then, the Moth Monma ones are different. Watching Andor made me realize that. I was like, oh, they're different sectors and whatnot. To
be fair, I only really kind of have an idea of that because I read/listen to some of the books.
Yeah.
Supplemental material, as it were.
Also, just how does the Empire work? Within the structure. If we apply our real world logic,
it's a pyramid.
Right, but it's okay.
That's usually how dictatorships work. Is you have the one guy at the top, and then he delegates to people that are just below him, who delegate to people who are below him. I know, for example, that there are sector leaders, which would be your Grand Moffs. And then from there below there, you have the people that run the individual planets. And from the planets, you then on the planets would have the people that run the individual cities or parts of the planet. God. So it's a pyramid.
I have more questions about their galactic government, but I'll ask them when we get to Andor. That's it. That's Rogue One. Rogue One's fun. I enjoy Rogue One.
So we now move into the have-not scenes.
Yeah, do the one that's not the Ewok one.
That was the plan.
Okay, good.
Which is Ahsoka.
So yeah, so Jake said he watched 2 episodes of Ahsoka and gave up. What made you give up Ahsoka?
It's boring. It's another show that kind of it's not as egregious as The Last Jedi, but established rules in Star Wars are kind of thrown out the window for story convenience.
Interesting. See, I've never watched Ahsoka because just purely based on, and Jordan said this when he was watching it, it looks like if you haven't watched Rebels, it's incoherent. And he said that if you haven't watched Rebels, it's incoherent.
Yeah, largely. Although it's funny because the which I can see how it would be, but the Wikipedia calls it a spin-off from The Mandalorian. I can see how it would be that also, but it's more of a sequel to Rebels than it is that.
More than anything.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it's only a spin-off of Mandalorian insofar as Mandalorian had Rosario Dawson.
As Ahsoka.
As Ahsoka, yeah.
But so I haven't watched all of Rebels. I think I've watched like the first season and part of season 2. So I like there's definitely stuff where I was like I don't know who, like Sabine, who is Ahsoka's apprentice. I retroactively went and I kind of looked up, but I had no idea who she was, so her whole character arc meant nothing to me. But like I knew who Ezra Bridger was, so it was kind of cool. Spoiler alert! It was kind of cool getting to see him in live action. But no, yeah, largely boring. I see boring. I absolutely see boring. My other big thing, and I guess maybe this is just a problem with how she's portrayed. I don't like how Rosario Dawson portrays Ahsoka.
No, I didn't like her on Mandalorian.
She kind of makes her a bitch.
Yeah.
Do you think?
Like, just kind of completely.
She sucks.
She's so self-righteous in The Mandalorian, and then my first reaction was like, okay, and where were you?
Yeah, pretty much.
When this whole rebellion thing was going on, and they could have used another Jedi in their ranks, like where
right? Like, why were you? You were just being fulcrum off in the darkness somewhere, twiddling your thumbs. I guess.
Yeah,
like,
it's kind of the Captain Marvel of it all from Avengers Endgame. It's like, where were you? It's like, well, the galaxy's a really big place. And I'm like, yeah, it's half the size it was now.
Right.
Kind of a big deal.
Right. It sort of seems like you should be out there helping with the galactic empire that you kind of help facilitate a little bit.
Yeah, kind of seems like, and you have no problem whatsoever stopping by Earth every now and again. Now,
right?
So
right.
What gives?
What changed?
Because you weren't a character. That's one thing about Ahsoka that gets frustrating is Dave Filoni is unwilling to cowboy hat kill off his characters.
Well, what makes it frustrating in this instance is like, okay, she survived Order 66, which I having seen the Clone Wars episodes where that happens, it's like, okay, I get it. She was trained by Anakin. Like, she was trained by Anakin specifically to defend herself against clones. I can see how she would survive that. I don't... Of the characters that survived Order 66, that one doesn't really bother me. Then somehow, of all the Jedi who were hunted down by the Empire, even ignoring Darth Vader, who were hunted down by the rest of the Empire and killed, she still somehow survives. Okay, I can look past that. The Death Star is a thing, and the Rebels know it's a thing, and she does nothing about it. That's kind of where my suspension of disbelief comes in. Like, she does nothing. She's not there in any capacity, which I get, obviously. Original movies are original. She wasn't a thing back then. But, like, in this, we could have at least been like, oh, she was... insert explanation of what she was doing, but like they don't even really acknowledge it.
Doesn't she go through like a time portal and wind up at the end of? Isn't that what happens?
In Rebels, there's a part where her and Darth Vader are fighting, and from what I remember, she was supposed to die there, and then Ezra goes into the place between worlds and pulls her through, and tries to save her, but you find out that the way time travel works in in the Star Wars universe, she had to go back through the portal she was pulled out of, so she still went back to that moment, but she now has foreknowledge and was able to survive as a result.
Gotcha.
That's what I understand. I didn't actually make it that far, but I've seen that clip on
I,
TikTok and stuff. But
I,
that's my understanding of it.
I will
Um,
say, in regards to
but
modern Star Wars, a lot of times it has cool moments that's sandwiched between nothing.
yeah,
Basically, yeah.
that's basically the show. Which I'll touch on some of that in a second. But to touch back on the Rosario Dawson portrayal, yeah, she doesn't feel like Ahsoka. Is my main thing, which I get the argument that would be made is like, yeah, she's like a 40-year-old Ahsoka. She's like old now, and maybe she's become bitter and jaded from her entire life being a war. So like I can see the argument. I just don't like it.
Yeah,
I,
fair
I
enough.
guess is kind of my but as for the show itself, yeah, no, there's some cool stuff. So like again, Hayden Christensen shows up as Anakin, and it's fun. It's fun seeing him show up, especially because there's spoilers. There's points where we see flashbacks where we get to see a live action, like a young live action Ahsoka, and Hayden Christensen is dressed in the outfit from the Clone Wars show, and like he looks like him, and it feels like him, and it's kind of cool how they've managed to make the 3D character, like the live action version, feel like the 3D version, and it starts to blend the two, where it's like I kind of can see a version of Hayden Christensen that would be that character, not in Revenge of the Sith, but in an alternate universe where we remade that movie, I could see
Yeah,
him
there's
being the same character.
there's a really fun moment where she's fighting him, and he walks through some like steam or some water or something, and he like
Yeah,
shakes his
Steam or
shoulder.
something.
He shakes his shoulders, and his silhouette turns into Darth Vader for a moment, and it's a really cool shot. Like objectively, it looks really cool. Like removed from the rest of the show that it's in, yeah, it looks cool. And just the fact that Hayden
Yeah,
Christensen is just so into being Darth Vader right now, and like they might make a
he's
Darth
having
Vader show.
fun. Like you can tell he's having a blast. And there's enough stories like in comics and stuff that they did with Darth Vader that I could see a show. I could see a show with Darth
It's just
Vader.
like I don't get why you just put him. But yeah, get a guy in a stunt suit and again, but Hayden Christensen in a voice booth. I just don't. How hard could it be to make a
Oh,
Darth
fuck
Vader
that.
show?
He wants to be Darth Vader. Put him in the suit.
I
Let him
mean,
do it.
yeah, but if it's in terms of money, you don't want to pay him. It must cost less to have him do a voiceover. Just do a voiceover.
I
Sure.
feel like he would do it either way. But yeah. And then the other thing is eventually you see Thrawn in live action, and that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's one of those
But
doesn't mean anything to me. He's a character that's never
it
meant anything to me.
it only does in the grand sense of I know who he is, and I've seen him in things, but I don't know a lot about him. I know that he shows up in Rebels, and that's a whole thing. But it's one of those, hey, I recognize that guy. That's kind of cool situations. But ultimately, okay, I have to I have to judge this show just on its own. So if I hadn't watched Rebels, like if I hadn't watched any of Rebels, would this show be watchable?
I don't think so.
And my ultimate summation is no, it's really not, because there's so many characters that you would have, like, who the hell is Ezra Bridger, and why are they going to so much lengths to bring him back from another galaxy? Also, space whales are apparently a thing, and they can go into hyperspace. That's apparently a
Like
thing.
space whales are ought to do. You know.
Um, but yeah, I don't know, man. It's a thing. It's a thing.
So is everyone ready to learn about some Ewok movies?
Yes, I am interested to hear about the first one because watching the one that I did, I didn't realize it was a sequel.
Jake, have you seen the Ewok movies?
I have not.
Jake, were you aware there were Ewok movies?
I was not.
Jake, there are two Ewok movies that came out.
Why?
Why? Well, apparently the
That's
19
that's a good question.
1980s, the Ewoks were wildly popular, A, and B, apparently George Lucas just fucking loves Ewoks because he wrote this movie. There's a movie called Caravan of Courage. It is a 1982 or 83 television movie. And it was made off of the back of the holiday special, which was obviously an embarrassment for George Lucas. And they wanted to prove that they could do something for television. So initially, this was a 30-minute television special that they weren't interested in. And it wasn't until they blew it out into a 2-hour movie of the week movie. And it is very basic, very simple plot. It's two kids and their parents crash land on Endor. And the Ewoks help the kids get back and find their parents. And in order to do so, they have to form a caravan of Ewoks to go find various other Ewoks so they can fight an evil giant to save the parents. And it's really like more of a fairy tale. The Ewoks once again utilize magic. There's a happy ending, except for one of the Ewoks dies, but there's otherwise a happy ending. Warwick Davis is once again playing Wicket, the main Ewok. And it's honestly okay. Like, there's a really fun sequence where there's like a stop motion. They call it a boar. I don't know how to describe, but it's like a Star Wars style alien. And then there's they do a really kind of fun job with scale with the giant. And so long as you remember that this is a made for TV movie and it's not a theatrical movie, it's pretty fun. It's honestly pretty fun. The only thing that really holds it back is the Ewoks don't speak English. They speak Ewokese. And so, yeah, yours is... Ewokese, yeah. And so the yours is very much a sequel to this.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, and so it's very funny because I can tell, because I know who Warwick Davis is. I know how he walks. He was 15 years old when he made it. I can tell when Wicket walks that it's Warwick Davis because he walks like Warwick Davis. It's really quite funny. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun movie. It's also on Disney Plus. It's very cute. The kids are cute. I'm trying to think if there's anything else notable. Oh, that's what's interesting about it is that cartoon I talked about earlier is a spin-off of this movie, where all of the characters from that show originated in this movie. So the wizard, the main wizard, Lockjaw or whatever, he's a character in this movie. The Wicket's parents, who are all on that animated show, all of the characters are on that show. All of the various enemies all originate from this show. And what's interesting is it initially was criticized because it was like, they're like, oh, it's a bending of genre. It's basically like a fairy tale, like a magical fairy tale story. But Star Wars is a science fiction story. Magic shouldn't exist in that universe. But in retrospect, magic is interpretable in the Star Wars universe with the Force. Because you could be like, any magic that they use could just be, this is just the Ewoks' interpretation of the Force. Mm-hmm. But yeah, this written by George Lucas. So George Lucas, and so that's where I'm like, if you're like, oh, Star Wars has way too many spin-offs and random side characters. It's always been like that from the beginning. Like, that's what this is. This is a random spin-off of a spin-off. So yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Of like, yeah, Star Wars has always been this way. It's always been this big merchandising machine. I guess it's just been about how much you notice it. Yeah, very strange, silly movie. That, it's also somehow is supposed to take place before Empire or Return of the Jedi. So even though the Ewoks all have seen humans and they speak English in this movie at times. They can communicate with humans. Yeah, that's careful. So, Jordan, tell us about the second one.
So then we come into the second one, which the droid show and the Ewok show that we talked about earlier came out in 1985. This also came out in 1985. So it's funny that you had a good time with yours.
I had a great time
because I didn't. I thought this was really, really, really bad. Um, I so okay. Basically, marauders are trying to take over the planet, and or the moon, I guess it technically is. And the Ewoks help the little girl that was from the first one. She's kind of the main character in this one. Sindel
Yeah, yeah,
Tawani.
yeah,
The family gets captured, and her and Wicket escape, and Wicket and them speak English to a degree, like not much, but like
yeah.
there's a point where they're trying to escape from the cart, and the other Ewoks are like, we're too big, can't get out." And then Wicket, or she's like, me and Wicket can, I know we can," and they escape, and then it's just a real meandering mess, in my opinion, in terms of a movie. They end up with it with like a salvager or whatever who looks after them for a while, and there's a female witch who, like, they think that there's this spaceship which fell from the, I think it was their spaceship from the first one, in hindsight, now hearing you talk about the first one. But there's a spaceship that fell from the sky, and she's going to use it to magic, and it's just, I was like, is this done yet? Is it, are we, I just, oh, the young girl who she's supposed to be playing, like a 5-year-old. I have no idea how old she actually was when she filmed it. Not a very good
No,
actress.
no, child actors
Really,
are
in
not
Star
good.
Wars.
Yeah, no.
I know. Child actor,
The
bad.
Ewoks in mine. I mean, like some of the costumes look kind of cheap, but the acting was good. Like,
Yeah, I mean it's fine. I give it a little bit of leeway because it's a made for TV
yeah,
movie.
exactly. You have to remember it's a
Um,
made-for-TV movie. That's kind of the big part of this.
but it's just in terms of the story itself, I found it very boring. Um,
I think it's because I went into it expecting it to be bad.
oh no, I went into it expecting it to be bad.
I
I
think
didn't
maybe
think it
that's
was going to be
why.
boring. I thought it would be like there would be like bad costume design, or like visually it would look bad. But I was like, maybe the story will at least be fun, but it's just dry. That's the word I would use. It was dry. And the story, so it was co-written and directed by Jim and Ken Wheat, from a story by George Lucas.
Yeah,
So I don't know if George Lucas actually did any writing for this,
yeah,
but
yeah. If it's anything like the first one, yeah, he did. He did. He did.
um, I mean, so uh, elements from the film have gone on to be in the expanded universe. So I believe the Ewok show was after this.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and there's a bunch of
If
expanded
I had to
stuff
guess,
here,
I'd say it's
which
probably the same witch that appears on the show. If I had to guess.
uh,
So
probably
bizarre.
I would not be surprised. Yeah, it was weird. It was a weird movie because like I see what you mean when you say it was a blending of genres, because like if the Ewoks weren't in this, it could be it could be not Star Wars.
Yeah,
The
same thing.
Marauders that were in it weren't Star Wars enough for me to immediately look at them and go like, that's a Star Wars thing. The only thing that was Star Wars enough in this Star Wars thing was the Ewoks. Otherwise, it could have just been a fantasy story.
So okay, so is that it? Is that it for the Ewoks?
There's really not much more to say about
Okay,
this.
Jake, have you seen Andor?
No, I have not.
Not seen Andor. Okay, okay. So this has all been leading up to Andor. The question of what is Star Wars? What makes a thing Star Wars? I'm guessing you've heard stuff about Andor, Jake. Yes,
I
I'm
have
guessing.
heard of Andor,
Yes.
yes.
Are you at all interested in watching Andor?
No.
No. Why?
Me neither.
Because, like I said, Ahsoka killed Star Wars for me, particularly the shows. If they come out with a new movie, I might go see it. Depends on if Rey is in it. If Rey's in it, I'm not there.
Because okay, okay, Andor. Okay, so this is Jordan. Okay, this is that's very interesting to me. Okay, Andor, the log line for this review is going to be Andor is a very good show. Like, it is a phenomenal show. It is, in fact, probably some of the best Star Wars I have ever seen. Or best television I've ever seen, I should say. It is a bad Star Wars show.
Which means it's a bad show.
But no, that's just it. It is a very good show. Like the final the final like 2 or 3 episodes are phenomenal. Like, truly well performed, well acted, well made, well written. Andy Serkis, it's like they said to Andy Serkis, we're sorry for General Snoke. We're sorry that we put you in that. We're going to give you probably the greatest monologue ever in Star Wars. Probably it's in fiction. But it is it is
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, it takes everything that was. It's written by one of the guys who wrote Rogue One. It's obviously a prequel, and it's about Cassian Andor, and it's about how he joined the rebellion, and it's about the early foundations of the rebellion, and it is, at points, agonizingly fucking boring. It is agonizingly fucking boring. It is one of the most boring shows I have ever watched in my life. And it
so you're sending contradictory messages because you said it was one of the best shows, and now you're saying it's one of the most boring shows.
It's basically, it starts off with like Cassian Andor. He's on his home planet, and they work underneath a generic, like, evil science fiction dystopian corporation, and he straight up murders 2 of them. And he winds up working for the spy master of the Rebel Alliance, and it's about the foundation. He winds up in a heist, stealing several thousand million credits from the Empire. And the show is, as much as it is a origin story for Cassian Andor, it is also a Mon Mothma show, and it is about Mon Mothma in her place in the Republic. So she is a senator who she's basically AOC, where she's like a progressive.
I'm getting from this and The Last Jedi some pretty strong anti-capitalist vibes.
Sort of, not really. This one is more anti-authoritarian, but she's basically within the context of, she's still in the Senate, and she's doing a lot of anti-empire. She blocks pro-empire legislation, and she puts in anti-empire legislation. She's very rich and wealthy, and it basically takes the ideas from The Last Jedi that the aristocracy is really removed, and it's a bunch of hub-nosed, that kind of idea. And it's a real solid political show, and it demonstrates that, at its core, fascism is just boring administration. It's just boring administrative guys agreeing to work for some guy, basically.
So I want to interject at this point. You said it, you yourself, in your own words, you said it's a bad Star Wars show, right?
Yes.
It's a bad show.
But it's
a Star Wars show. It's a Star Wars show. You're saying it's a bad Star Wars show. That means it's a bad show. It's missing the point of what it's supposed to be.
But that's just and there's a lot of moments where it's so in the first episode he murders 2 guys outside of a brothel. And in episode 4, one of the guys is so they were killed. They were going to a brothel they shouldn't have been at. They were murdered. We're gonna cover this up and make it look like they were defending some poor person, but they run afoul of some immigrant and they got murdered at a brothel. And I'm like, that's not Star Wars. Or I don't know, Jake, if you've heard in the newer season, the woman, she nearly gets raped.
Yeah, no, that's not Star Wars.
And so
that feels very not Star Wars.
So she comes out and she's like, he tried to rape me. And she literally says he tried to rape me. And to me, yeah, that pushes shit too far. Or there's a moment early in the show where one of the characters stabs a guy with a knife. And not a special laser Star Wars knife, a literal knife. And someone finds her and he's like, you've got blood all over you. And I'm like, that's too far. Like, that's not Star Wars. That's not what Star Wars is. And, like, yeah, there's moments where it's examining the idea of fascism and how fascism can be allowed to operate and what it's like to work in a fascist government and have that the curtain or specter of fascism over top of your world. And yeah, there's moments where you see stormtroopers come in and they're legitimate. It's the first time stormtroopers are legitimately scary because they're like the last thing these guys call in. And there's an episode later where Cassian has escaped his planet or whatever, and he runs afoul of, you know, the robots from Rogue One. He runs afoul
the Imperial
of
droids.
Yeah, he runs afoul of one of those, and he gets arrested for like a minor infraction, and he gets sent to jail. And he's like, I didn't do anything, and they end up sending him to jail for 6 years for nothing, basically. And then there's a few episodes where he's in prison and he runs into a prison, like he's basically in their prison. They're building random parts for something, they don't know what, and
that's all great, but as soon as you say to me the Star Wars show is a bad Star Wars show, that tells me it's a bad show.
And so he winds up in this again. He winds up in this prison, and yeah, Andy Serkis is phenomenal. The prison break sequence is great, and in those moments, it feels like Star Wars. Like, there's moments where, like, yeah, they're shooting laser beams at each other. Like, there are moments, and when this show is allowed to feel like Star Wars, but like a slightly more closer to an R-rated Star Wars, it's fun and it's really engaging and it's really interesting. And if you're looking to deal with Star Wars on an intellectual level, then this is a really good show. So it depends. That's why I'm saying what. And it's like, if you're like, oh, it's too dark and too dire, too many people die, and it's sad, like a lot of people die, like meat grinder style, and it's really sad. If you're like, oh, Star Wars shouldn't be that, I understand that argument. But like, objectively, as a show, it's a really good show. Does that make sense? Have I explained myself adequately?
I understand what you're saying, but again, for me, as soon as you say the Star Wars show is not Star Wars, it's a bad show. That's full blank, full stop. The rest of it, that's great. You could put a different paint of coat on it, and I'm sure it would be a good show. But as soon as you say that the Star Wars show it's not Star Wars, it's not a good Star Wars show, that means it's missed the point of the audience that it's trying to get in and who it's trying to appeal to. Also, as soon as they say he tried to rape me in my Star Wars thing, yeah, that kills it for me.
Yeah, that's where I walk out of it.
It's not the violence, because I mean, Revenge of the Sith literally has a scene where he goes to the Jedi temple to murder younglings. Like, Star Wars is inherently violent. It's known for its violence. It's known for its darkness. Like, that's not for me, but it's there's a fine line that you walk between it being, I don't want to say goofy violence, but for lack of a better word, goofy violence versus real violence.
Well,
and when you have real violence, like stabbing someone with a knife, that's different than like shooting them with a blaster.
What I will say, it's not even that Andor is indiscriminately a murderer who murders people, because he does that in Rogue One. Like, because I was trying to figure out, like, I'm like, what's the difference between Rogue One, which in my opinion does what this is trying to do more effectively, versus this, which I think it pushes that boundary too far. Is this has
From
no
what
levity.
You've told me.
This has no,
yeah, I was gonna say.
It has no
Sorry.
levity. There's no humor, which is what Star Wars needs in order to make the guys getting gunned down feel more palatable, I think. Maybe that's it. But I don't know.
Yeah. From what you've described too, I think the difference is in terms of Star Wars terminology. In Rogue One, in the movie, those characters feel more like Han Solo scoundrels, whereas what you've described in this show, they just sound like bad people.
Yeah, I mean, the Mon Mothma stuff is really interesting. Like I say, if you're looking to examine Star Wars on an intellectual level, like really examine the political workings of their system and their government, it's a really good. That's why
I'm not.
I'm really that's.
I'm here for explosions and laser swords.
Well, that's not to say that
pretty much.
That's not to say that there isn't explosions in there. It just there's like okay, there's very long sequences of if you've ever looked at Star Wars and been like, I want really long sequences of Imperial sitting in boardrooms discussing like plans for like
No,
5 to 10 minutes of
that was everything people like Red Letter Media hated about Episode One is the trade disputes.
That's what's so baffling to me, right? Is this show is everything everyone hated about the prequels. It's everything everyone hated about The Last Jedi. It's all of that. It's like there's a point where they even mention Canto Blight, but like all of those like those toxic Star Wars fans, of which I feel like we are not in that club.
I don't think we are. I don't count myself in that club.
They like will like weirdly defend this show. It's really bizarre. I don't understand it.
That's because controversial opinion and come at me, internet. Star Wars fans don't know what they want.
Yeah,
they don't. They have no idea what they want.
So okay,
I know what I want. I want to stop doing the Skywalker saga and do stuff in the Old Republic. That's what I want. I want fresh or like 10,000 years after the Skywalker saga, when we're in the future and you can do whatever you want. I want new things with new stakes.
I guess that's what Jordan's already said his. So I guess that's a good way to wrap up. May the Fourth be with you, Jake. What would it take for you to get back into Star Wars? Is it Andor?
No. Okay, here's the thing. What made Star Wars special was the storytelling incident. I don't want to say it was black and white and basic, because that's not what I'm saying. Like, but I don't know exactly what it was that got away from what Star Wars was. I think it's been a pretty slow erosion just based on them wanting to create more content. But honestly, I don't think we're ever going to get classic Star Wars back. I think that's done. I think there's been too much damage. So if we want to make it good again, I kind of got to agree with Justin. I mean, I'm sorry, I got to kind of agree with Jordan here, because The Mandalorian did what you were talking about. And season 1 in particular was
but then it went right back to
awesome.
Here's Luke Skywalker, and he's a CGI monstrosity in season 2, and they ruined it. I completely agree with you.
That's where I say that as soon as you start going back to the tried and true, and I think that's where it got away from us, is at a certain point it stops making sense. So Ahsoka exists, but like all these other Jedi exist, but none of them, they didn't group up together. They didn't like. The more that you try to shove into the original, particularly the original trilogy, the less it makes sense. Which is why I say we need to. Skywalker Saga's done. No more. Don't go back there. Leave it. It's done. Stop doing stuff in that time period. Either do it long before or long after, so you can have dozens of untold stories with unknown characters who have actual stakes, because you don't know what's going to happen in the universe.
I think, and okay, tell me if you guys disagree with this, because I'm trying to figure out what it is about Andor I don't like, and I think it's just because, like, fundamentally, I wasn't looking for Star Wars to be an exploration or examination on fascism. Like, I wasn't looking for the nuance. Like, yeah, I understand that
it's too realistic.
Fundamentally, in war and in a rebellion, yeah, the rebels have to do bad shit. Like no rebellion is perfect, no uprising is perfect, but like I don't need to see that explored in Star Wars. Like I don't need to see that, oh, maybe the Empire isn't all bad. Like you're right. I think that what works about that first Star Wars movie is they're the bad guys, they're the good guys, that's it. Not everything needs nuance, maybe is maybe how I would characterize it.
Yeah, I think especially when it's like the Empire, which is they're evil. Yeah. Like that's the point in the original movies, is they're evil. They're the guys that will build a Death Star and blow up a planet just to have the rest of the universe fall in line. So when you start to humanize that, same as like when you start to humanize that and make the rebels look like, oh, well they're not good either, well then who are we supposed to root for then? Yeah. If the rebels are just as bad as the Empire. That's my issue with that show.
Yeah, it's like,
it's like, and the reason why the movie works better is because there are enough characters that are like scoundrels, sure, like not straight good, but they're more Han Solo and less Boba Fett.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas Andor to me is more like they're all Boba Fett, where they're too dark.
Yeah, and I think that has to do with the fact that the show is just written by the one guy who's like, yeah, I want to make an anti-Star Wars show. And, like, I get why people are maybe starving for that. And, like, it's the same thing, the same issue I have with those Netflix Marvel shows, which we're probably going to end up talking about next week, where it's hard for me to, like, picture a universe where, like, the Jedi and Grievous and Darth Vader exists, but also this woman's like, and he tried to rape me. It's just those two, like,
yeah. There's a real
escapism is escapism for a reason, and it should have a right to remain escapism. I don't feel like that's unfair, personally.
Right.
yeah. Like I think my issue with like Andor and stuff like that is, and I don't know how to work. There are places where that can be a thing, like shows like, not necessarily literally the Orville, but like shows like the Orville, which are also science fiction, but they tackle deeper things, more serious things. In some cases, like, or a show like that, like,
Yeah.
you can have another thing. You don't have to mix your peanut butter with your chocolate. Like, in some cases, you can just enjoy your chocolate separately and your peanut butter separately. I don't need that to kind of that. I think that's how I would put it.
Yeah. Yeah. So neither of you guys, I didn't manage to convince you to watch Andor. Hey, just watch like the episode 10 on YouTube in clips. Go look up Andy Serkis Andor, because you know he is truly like phenomenal on that show. Just like, I think he may have either won or got nominated for an Emmy for it. Like, it's honestly some of the yeah. It's why my final opinion on it is just mixed. I was mixed on it. That's why it's hard. It's hard for me to recommend, because I'm like, I get why people like this, but also I also get why people don't like this. I saw someone say it's a Star Wars thing that's a shame to be Star Wars, which is a problem. Anyway.
Yeah, again, to me that means it's a bad show. But hey, that's just my opinion.
See, when this eventually becomes a YouTube video, you guys are gonna get yelled at in the comments, and I'm gonna be the one who doesn't get yelled at the comments for once.
No. Let's be fair.
No.
I'll be the one who gets yelled at, because I was the one who was most vocal against it.
Because the title's going to be like, Andor is a bad Star Wars show, and every single person... We're going to play a game of how many people actually watch the video. Those are always my favorite. I thought for sure Animal Farm Communism Bad was going to get some people. Anyway.
Communism Bad.
Communism Bad. That's the part of that book. That's it. That's Star Wars. Thanks, Jake, for hanging out and talking about Star Wars.
Oh, thanks for having me.
On May the 4th. Yeah, we're gonna do Star Trek again eventually. Jake has to.
I was just gonna say my advice to everyone: just watch Star Trek.
Just watch Star Trek instead. They're not trying to make rude Star Trek. I mean, Quentin Tarantino wanted to, but they wouldn't let him. It wouldn't let Quentin Tarantino make rude Star Trek. Anyway, next week, for me and Jordan, we're going to go watch... Are you going to watch The Thunderbolts, Jake?
Probably not, for the same reason.
Because
I'm MCU'd out. Just after... I'm trying to think of the last one. I think after... So, especially because of Black Widow. Nah.
Interesting, because I got the vibe that maybe you guys were thinking about it, but to be fair, I hear it's good. I've avoided as much of it as I can. I've heard Thunderbolts is really good.
I heard it was dumb as shit.
It depends on who you talk to. So I've heard some people say it's quite good. So
the guy who plays Red Guardian looks like he's having a lot of fun in that movie, and it makes me feel like it's fun. That's kind of my thing with Thunderbolts. Like David Harbour, I think his last name is. Yeah. He looks like there's a clip Justin showed me of him going to Disneyland and meeting Red Guardian in Disneyland, and like you can tell he's having like the time of his life playing this character. And sometimes I don't want to prejudge this movie, because I know what you mean when you say Marvel burning out. I am like that to a degree, but sometimes an actor truly having a good time and a delight being a character will elevate the product.
This is true. This
Yeah,
is true.
I mean, I feel largely the same way about that Superman movie that we're definitely gonna watch.
Yeah, that one looks fun.
But next week, me and Jordan, we're gonna talk about Thunderbolts, and we're gonna talk about Marvel stuff that isn't MCU and Marvel stuff we haven't seen, which is gonna devolve to television. I think I might watch some Agatha all along. I think I might watch that David Hasselhoff Nick Fury movie. I'm thinking about it.
I think I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna have to try and rewatch Netflix Daredevil.
Yeah, I was thinking about this, something around that. But yeah, we're gonna talk about some Marvel next week because we've managed to not do a Marvel episode as well. That's that. Jake, tell the people where you want to be found.
YouTube. You can always find me on YouTube. YouTube is my primary.
Is that bread and butter? Gotta loving that bread and butter. Jordan, where are you?
I do Minecraft Mondays on Twitch, SethGore187. I also spend my weekends talking with you.
I am here on weekends. I also am on TikTok. I do the TikTok. We have a TikTok, Spur of the Moment P. You can email the show. It's justinsbusiness@gmail.com. Patreon. We have a Patreon. You can go to Discord. Wednesday, Average Intelligence Podcast. If you want to hear us talk about Canadian politics, that's gonna be fun. I think I don't know what I'm missing. I don't know. I think that's it. I think
Patreon, Discord. You did
next show's Marvel.
TikTok. Next show's Marvel. We did Jake and Sabers. You can use our link to go and buy one of these cool things, which I've shown off multiple times.
That's it. I think that's it. I think we're out.